From the TFNB Your Bank for Life studio, this is 365 Sports. Presented by IdealMRI.com. Premium quality MRIs, convenient, affordable. That's ideal. And by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance. We are Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, your insurance provider built by Texans for Texans. And we've been protecting families in our great state since 1952. TFNB, your bank for life, serving Central Texans since 1889. Now it's time for 365 Sports.
Man, if you fell asleep a decent hour last night, you missed some of the news when it comes to the Big 12 basketball tournament and the court, floor, and more. I woke up to an email from the Big 12 that Brett Yormark had made the decision, consult with others, that he was going to, and the Big 12 was going to change the floor. We'll discuss that, get reaction. And Craig Smoak and Paul Catalina join me. This is 365 Sports. So here is the statement from the Big 12 Conference when it comes to the court that was taken out as soon as that game ended late last night. After consultation with the coaches of our 4 semifinal teams, I've decided that in order to provide student athletes with the greatest level of comfort on a huge stage this weekend, we will transition to a hardwood court for the remainder of the tournament. We look forward to a great semifinals and championship game.
The coaches yelled at me. I don't know if they yelled at him.
No, because Bill Self didn't. I know that
Yeah,
for sure because he actually said he didn't know about the final decision. He wasn't really asked about it, other than maybe making some comments the first couple of days.
Yeah, I do think, though, that the athletic directors asked their coaches what they thought of it, and they said if we could go back to a hardwood floor, that would be great. I do think that the kind of message conveyed to Brett Yormark was, look, this was really innovative and great, but, we've got guys pulling their groins now, and this is about to be before the tournament, and we don't want to get anybody hurt because the floor can play episodes of Golden Girls. That's great and all, but again, can we just go back to the hardwood?
Well, yeah, what's up, chat? Hope you're having a good day today, and everybody else watching along as well. Glad to be with you all on this Friday, and yeah, that was interesting to see the news come down last night after the final game wrapped up, and Bill Self's there doing his press conference after KU's game and being asked about it, and said, basically that he understands the decision and he agrees with the decision. And I think that's probably the majority sentiment that I've seen today is people acknowledging that it was the best move to make, even if it's maybe a little bit of a bad look, depending on how you want to look at it. I mean, which way do you want to peer through? Do you want to applaud the innovation and the attempt to do something new? Or do you want to just pan anything that's non-traditional, especially when it doesn't work out? I mean, that's in the eye of the beholder. But from the get-go, I said I appreciate Brett Yormark trying to do new things, and not all of those things are always going to work. Those who say every time he does something that it's a great idea, be wary of those types of people because that's just not the case for anybody. And I think we've seen multiple things, whether it's the proposed idea of basketball in Mexico or baseball, which has been delayed, or this court, or maybe things here and there that, hey, I appreciate trying to do something, but that doesn't mean that it's going to work. And in the case of this court, I definitely appreciated the idea, but I think it became pretty clear pretty quick, not only just in the men's tournament, but the week prior in the women's tournament. You had some shreds of evidence that maybe this wasn't going to be the best thing in the world, but you just pushed through it and thought, well, maybe we need to break it in some more, or, hey, we spent a lot of money on this thing. We're not just going to toss it after a couple of games, so let's ride this thing out. But now you get down to the nitty-gritty, and you do have more and more people that are saying, well, I'd sue if I got injured on this thing, or I'd blame this court for my star player going down right before March Madness, or all the things that could have gone extremely wrong, I think suddenly start to worry you a little bit if you're Brett Yormark, and you have to consider that. And I think also, based on his statement, I think what he's saying, whether that's really the driving reason here or not, is the right answer. And that's, we've got 4 incredible basketball teams that are playing in our semifinals this weekend, but all of the talk is about this court. Like, all of the talk about the tournament this week is the court, or it's about where the tournament should be, which is like 2 fan bases versus the other 14 basically, or 10 of the 14. And that's just an every year thing. So that's nothing abnormal. But beyond that side chat, everything was about this court. So he says he wants to put the focus on the 4 teams, and I think that's a good idea. So a little bit of a bummer, maybe for him a little bit embarrassing, although I'm sure he's been far more embarrassed in his career with big ideas that didn't work out. But I saw Scott Van Pelt this is like one of the main stories on Scott Van Pelt's show last night. That's how much this has been talked about. And he, I think, kind of said what I was thinking at the time, which was, again, cool to try something, but good for you to know when it's not working and then just own it and just say, all right, we tried. It wasn't what we thought it would be, and so let's make a move while we can.
Yep.
So I do applaud that.
Here's Bill Self, a couple of different things. And I listened, there's a longer part of it. He was really he actually said he didn't have a big problem with it, but he felt like with the decision that had been made as they was doing some post-game, he said it's the right thing to do. In fact, Kelvin Sampson said this they could do it tonight. They could do it tonight. They probably should as far as flipping out the floor. If this was a concert tonight and we had a game tomorrow, no different than that, they've done that. It's the right thing to do. That doesn't need to be the storyline. And there were players and others. I don't mind someone attempting something to try to try to make things better. But here's what I also saw from writers. Maybe you both feel the same way. You have the best basketball conference in America. Why screw with it? Just play the games. Had they had this same LED court and nothing had gone on, okay. But apparently there was a risk that maybe the company did not quite make very clear.
Yeah, maybe so. I think it's innovation that has a use. I said this yesterday. I think there are some uses for it. I think it's a cool technology. I just don't know if it's for high-level college basketball right now. In 2 or 3 years, maybe they work out some of the bugs, and this thing is perfect for basketball. But there is a use for it. There's concerts you could do and use this thing. There's all sorts of shows you could do.
Conventions.
Hell, if we had one in here, we could find a way to make it work and make it cool and use it. So, yeah, there's all sorts of things. That technology is legit. It's just, is it for playing major basketball games on? Right now, I think the answer is pretty clearly no after this week.
Yeah, and when other things have changed, like the field turf and football, not everybody liked that, and there was a little bit of this or a little bit of seams, remember, and they had to, then they got it better, but there was nothing like this that affected the game.
But if those things didn't work, then they tossed them and they moved to the side. Just because you want it to work doesn't mean you force it to work. Square peg, round hole. So in this case, I think the look of it was great, but the actual feel of it, there's just opinions across the spectrum of, well, I'm not going to make excuses, or it didn't bother me to, no, I was slipping a lot to the K-State guy whose name escapes me because there's been so many guys.
Manning.
Yeah, Taj Manning, who's I don't like the court, they need to get rid of it.
And my teammates are getting migraine. My teammate gets migraine.
My teammates are getting migraines just from looking at it and all of that. And then, so there was all these different opinions, and I'll tell you what, as somebody who doesn't suffer from migraines but knows people that do, that's legit.
Yeah.
All that stuff moving around on the court, that is legitimate. There was also, guys, the fact that you couldn't tell where some of the lines were at times.
I wondered about backcourt violations that they just didn't know it was a backcourt violation.
The first day, there was multiple people going where's the midcourt line? You can't even see the midcourt line. You can't see the three-point line or whatever. So, again, I applaud the effort. But I do think that if there is a drawback to Brett Yormark, or if there's an easy way to criticize him, especially if you're some of these people who paint him as a villain because you're a fan of another conference, which I don't know. But I think, he's not your typical college guy, so that rubs people the wrong way. Especially those who really love just tradition. He is the antithesis of, let's just stick to tradition. Clearly, this is a great example of that. Sometimes it's for the better, and I think it is progress and good, but there are times where, you probably just don't mess with it. But, this was a great attempt, but it just fell flat ultimately and wasn't a good idea. And he did give people an easy way to critique him and say, well, this is gimmicky. This is more gimmicky stuff from the Big 12. And ultimately, you know what? They're right. You do have the best basketball conference in America. You do have the strongest Final Four of semifinals teams standing, I would think, right now across the country because you've got your top 4 teams that are all locked in. But, why do you need to mess with that when the product's so good? You don't need the neon lights at the three-point line.
The focus was on the court from almost day one of the women's tournament, not on the games, not on West Virginia winning the women, asked Michael DeHart, and or the games coming up or this week One more note about Self, Paul. He said he didn't find the court awful. He actually complimented some of it, but he said probably not perfect. And you do that, you need to be perfect.
Well, that's if you told me that the 4 coaches did actually get together, and I'm sure they all talk all the time. If they did get together and then somebody sent the message of the 4 of us would like it, Bill Self is going to take the kind of like, cool, measured stance against it. I would say Tommy Lloyd might be the most bombastic of the 4 semifinal coaches.
He was more upset about wanting to move the tournament.
But like,
okay, we're gonna have to talk about that because that's not quite true.
Yeah.
But all right, we'll get to that.
But I think that if that's the case, he's going to be like, but he's going to play it down because all his focus is always on, we control what we can control. It's very cliched stuff. He's just better at maybe dressing it up than other coaches are. But yeah, I also think that the canary in the coal mine was Christian Anderson, because there's a tournament team that their best scorer has a pulled groin, which might not be as bad. But here's the thing about groin injuries, and everybody in sports knows this, is that they are the slowest healing things, and even if you can play through it, you are limited because your lateral movement is just shot because you just don't have that kind of strength that you did, and it gets worse before it gets better and all that. So I do think that's the canary in the coal mine. It wouldn't surprise me if Grant McCaslin was maybe one of the ones that went back and said, hey, this is nuts.
There were more. Ari Temkin's going to join us a little after 4 from Big 12 Radio. Disappointed that they did not get your mark on their morning show. I know he was too. But, yeah, one of the things that happened is if you do something like this, it needs to work. And it didn't. And it was, it didn't from the beginning, even with the week before and the women's basketball tournament.
I was actually wondering about this. And by the way, I can't hear groin injury without always thinking of Ted Danson and Cheers. I don't know if y'all remember that particular segment of the show, but the groin injury.
Oh, yeah.
So, I always think of Ted Danson when I hear that. But I was wondering, when do you test this thing?
Well, it was being used in Europe.
Okay, well, so I think what the answer is you let other levels test it till it's perfect, and then you say, all right, bring it on over to NCAA basketball, and now let's use it. You're not the hamster on the wheel trying to work out the kinks yourself.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
So I think, that was a product that was a little bit too early in its development and not quite ready for showtime. And, they don't need to be the ones that are testing it out when you've got so much money riding on what's to come. And if you're Texas Tech, who – granted, they're probably not the best example. Some of them have their issue with your mark just based on tortillas. But for those who don't already have an agenda or a vendetta against him, if Christian Anderson goes down and you've got it in your head that it's because of this court, and you know what, it might be, like maybe that injury doesn't happen on a regular surface, then, did you just torpedo one of your best teams and a team that could have gone and made you a lot of money in the tournament for the sake of this court attempt? So, and I think you really ran the risk of disrupting and possibly just completely curtailing a team's best attempt to go and win the tournament because they had a guy get hurt on this floor and you did not want to be a part of that type of a story. So, you said before that has any chance of happening this weekend, we've flown close to the sun. Let's go back to earth real quick while we can.
And not to downgrade the fact that Christian Anderson and others got tweaked or whatever, is that it could have happened on a hardwood court. But when it's new, you have to almost be perfect.
Yeah, no, but if it happened on the hardwood court, people would just say it's an injury. If it happens on this court, they're saying it's because of the court.
That's what I just said. Yeah, that's what I said. Do we have the picture of the changing of the floor? This is from Ari Temkin from earlier today. He will join us at 4. Also, Travis Hines, who covers Iowa State, will join us from the Des Moines Register at 3:40. But there's the court as it's being changed out. It will be fine. It will be the old school. It will hopefully be and look like an arena, like where big boys play tonight when they tip it off at 6.
Well, they always have it back there. It's lived there for a long time, which is another reason you don't move it. Then you have to move this court.
Sometimes underneath of it,
That's a lot. Moving sucks. It's hard. You got to get the truck and all that stuff. But I do think that the Big 12 was probably smart enough to know that, like, this could go a little bit sideways, so we've got to be ready for it.
This could be like a real problem.
Yeah,
like if somebody else gets hurt this weekend and suddenly Iowa State's best player's not playing because of, like Tamin Lipsey gets hurt or something. That's what I think you guys. I think that's what you got worried about. You got worried about like legal possibilities here.
Yeah. Okay, here was you guys don't have this, but I found this before I left to come to the studio. There's a guy named Tanner McGrath on Twitter. This is from a long time into the deep night, but before they made the decision and released the statement. Sources in Kansas City telling me the Big 12's pulling the LED court tonight, replacing it because of everyone slipping, sliding, but has not been confirmed. And then soon after that, a national writer in Seth Davis, who is one of the larger, bigger names when it comes to college basketball. So we're now reporting things that are not unconfirmed, that are unconfirmed. Seth Davis, he did his job here. He said unconfirmed, but he said he heard from sources they were going to change it up. I don't like that holier than now. If I don't report it and somebody else I don't know does, then it shouldn't be reported.
It was pretty fast. I got a text from Kevin Flaherty last night and said this floor is something else. He said it's just walking around on it when he got there last night. He said it was pretty it's pretty odd. Like he didn't think it was it was all that safe, and then 3 hours later, they're moving it.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know why Seth Davis chose to be an asshole, because that's like really a weird comment to make if a guy is just putting that out there and he's reacting so extremely to the report being unconfirmed. Like, you're the only one that can confirm reports, Seth. Like,
That's
I got
exactly
nothing
right.
against you, man. I don't know you from Adam, but like that just sounds like being a D-head for
no reason.
So it turns out, shout out to Tanner McGrath, I guess, right?
Yep.
Tanner McGrath had it first and had it correct. So there you go. That's just a weird response, and I don't understand that. But nevertheless, that's what Kevin Flaherty said. You said, Paul?
Yeah,
he
told
me. It was
me.
kind of weird.
Hold on,
Okay.
let me see the exact words that he sent me.
Well, I mean, I'll be interested to hear what Ari says as well from those who have been there.
Actually, he said this court is really bad.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
and Travis will join us, and he's been there too.
Well, I mean, the opinions have been all over the place for the last few days, and to the point of I felt like we were talking about it yesterday, and we were kind of wrapping up the segment. It's like, well, we probably talked too much about this, and little did we realize, oh, no, the talking's not done. They're about to make the complete change tonight because it's being talked about so much. So it's been a valid story to discuss because it's been a hot button kind of buzzy topic, and now here we are, and we're going to make this big transition back to the hardwood court. So hopefully the slipping subsides and everybody can just focus on the basketball, because you do have some really great teams that are awaiting to try to become champions this weekend.
You're right, and here's the schedule. Here is tonight's schedule, the 6 and then 8:30 games. Think about this when you see these games. 3 of the top 10 teams in the country, and then 14th ranked Kansas, who won late yesterday against TCU in a hell of a game, down 78-73. And so that is tonight. Those 3 in the top 10, because Iowa State's ranked as well in the top 10, and KU at number 14. That is what the focus is and should be tonight.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a couple of teams that probably felt like they could have been in there, right? Texas Tech prior to the injury, BYU prior to injuries, but that's a pretty strong foursome right there. And I saw a tweet in passing earlier today, and I think they're probably on the money of if you were, and I wish I could give credit, but I don't remember who it was, but they're saying if you're a Houston and Kansas fan, you're definitely rooting for Arizona tonight, right? Because the alternative is Iowa State just gets their super-duper home court advantage in the next round of the championship. So, yeah, I think if you're Houston or you're Kansas, you obviously got to take care of your own business, but you'll know going into your game if Iowa State won or not. But for all those fans that are going to show up early or be watching that prior to KU and Houston, yeah, I think you're rooting for Arizona because they clearly did not travel that well. Maybe they would jump on some overnights, I don't know. But they clearly did not travel in bulk to KC. They're part of the contingent of folks who are not adamant about loving Kansas City, although I don't want to paint the whole fan base.
Yeah, and there's also 2 games left for them. Maybe they might have a much
so they could
larger
very well
crowd this week.
they could very well just jump on a flight tonight and be like, hey, let's go and finish out the rest of this tournament and show up in mass. But Iowa State's going to be there. That's the thing is Iowa State if they're alive, they are going to have a massive crowd there. So if you're Houston or Kansas, I think you're probably rooting for Arizona.
Yeah, and look, Iowa State and Kansas. Like if you told the venue, not the Big 12. If you told the venue, hey, who would you like to be in the final? They would say Kansas State, not Kansas and Iowa State, because that means that every seat's probably filled. And Houston brings a nice little contingent usually. I mean, I haven't been since they've been in the conference, but they've got a good fit. But
let's let the fans discuss that, because I wonder too. I think they've definitely got like a good core, but I don't know like how vast it is. You know what I mean?
At the Final Four in 21, they had a nice chunk, but it was the semifinal game against I think Baylor that year.
Yeah.
And they had a nice chunk, but again, it was COVID, so I couldn't get a good feel. But most people have a traveling party of something.
And outside of Kansas, the ones who are always there the most, in the original iteration was obviously Mizzou, Kansas State, Oklahoma State had probably more than OU, depending on how good OU was. Just Oklahoma State basketball is probably a bigger deal there historically than Oklahoma, just slightly. They probably have more locked-in fan base. And then as it's changed, there's always a nice Texas contingent. Tech, when they were good, always had a nice contingent, but they pale in comparison to everyone else. Now, when West Virginia joined the league, they really did come out to it, and it's a long way for them, but those folks are just basketball nuts.
Yeah.
So, they came out really well. I remember just being out in the Power and Light, walking around the stadium before the game one time, and it was the final between Kansas and West Virginia one year, which is one of the best basketball games I've ever been to in my life, and there were West Virginia people everywhere. So they came out strong because they were really good. Huggy Bear, era. So
well, it's not lost on I think people that the couple of fan bases that are complaining the most are the ones that don't want to travel. They'd rather have it in Las Vegas. But the ones who are the loudest about it's where it needs to be are Iowa State fans, Kansas fans, those who serve up these massive crowds because it is closer and they are able to travel, and they're also just used to it. They know the deal in Kansas City. So that is one element of that back and forth is there are fan bases who, yes, Arizona and Utah are selfishly wanting the tournament in Las Vegas, but let's not act like you're not somewhat selfish in wanting to keep it in Kansas City as well, because you are very well served by having it there at the same time.
They've tried to move it in the past.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Arkansas was a part of the Big 12, of the Big 8, a part of the Southwest Conference, and then moved to the SEC. They dominated the crowd at Reunion Arena. It's not a very long drive from Fayetteville or anywhere Arkansas, plus their fan base in the South. But when it was there and Arkansas wasn't there, it was not the same. So you have some, again, fan bases that come more often than others. Speaking of Iowa State, Hilton South is what they call it because of the mass amount of people. And I would think if they lost tonight, they might have a huge crowd for the championship game. In their last 6 Big 12 tournament wins, they have beaten people by 19, 14, 28, 20, and 49 and 22 points. I haven't won all throughout it, but those are the point spreads in their last 6 Big 12 tournament wins. And on average, I'm going to say that's close to well over 20, 25 points a game.
Well, and they now meet the last team to beat them, which is a couple of weeks ago in Arizona. So went and beat the Sun Devils a couple times, beat Texas Tech, and now it's Arizona, who was the last team they fell to. That's when they went on that little bit of a skid where they dropped a few games there towards the end, and U of A beat them, and so now we'll get a quick turnaround for the rematch, and obviously a spot on the championship in the line, and 2 very proud basketball-obsessed and fanatical programs. So I think the scene for that one ought to be just that's what you want in a good conference college basketball tournament game is a fan base like Arizona opposite a fan base like Iowa State and 2 great teams. It's going to be awesome.
And then BYU's out. But a heck of an effort, but a loss to Houston. A.J. DeBanza scored 26 last night and now sets the single tournament scoring record that was held by Kevin Durant, who's one of his all-time favorite players. He also, a note, averaged 39 points, 39 minutes a game in the 3 games that BYU played, and has been averaging, he played in 116 minutes. He's averaging 39 minutes per game in the last, they say, 4 to 5 weeks. That comes out of BYU.
He's a freak of nature and just an exceptionally talented player, and every bit of the hype that you saw for him initially when he was being recruited and rated so highly and projected so highly, and then BYU lands him and it was such a big splash for them. You don't always see guys like that live up to the bar that was set. He has. He's risen to that, and he's stayed there. He hasn't dipped and just shows you flashes. He's pretty much remained an elite player the entire year. And yes, he's going to be in the NBA very soon, and it's bittersweet because you know that the next game they lose, that's the last game he's probably playing in a BYU uniform. And while it was a full season, it did fly by, I'm sure, especially if you're a fan of the Cougars. So yeah, he is every bit of what he was advertised to be, if not then some. And he's been compared by some of these coaches. I saw Kelvin Sampson talking about him in the post game about how he just knew he wasn't going to land him recruiting, but that was the first time that he had heard about him, and he's every bit as legit as he expected him to be. And I think to go and break Kevin Durant's record, I wanted to make sure that it wasn't you did it in 5 games and this guy did it in 3. It was no, they both played 3 games. So it was just a straight up perfect comparison that, he breaks Durant's record in the same amount of time. So, I mean, you're breaking Kevin Durant records. That's pretty good stuff right there. And, he's a star, and he's going to be great in the NBA.
Houston, in the win last night against BYU, how about this stat from GoCougs.com? They are now undefeated on Thursdays going back over 5 years. Now, not many teams play Thursdays, but you have some Thursday games, tournament games, non-conference games, etc., but they have not lost a game on a Thursday night in 61 months. And winning last night in the game against BYU last night to get on to where is the semifinals.
Yeah, I mean, bittersweet for the Cougars, who are still going to play some more basketball, but I think the good news for them is they've kind of overcome and got onto the other side of the Richie Saunders injury and just injuries and things like that. And I mean, if you got DeBansa, you got a chance to win every game in the tournament, I feel because he's that kind of guy that can just take over a game in March. So they'll be fun. But yeah, Houston's Houston. I mean, they're as steady of a program there as there is in the entire country over the last few years, and what a great win for them last night. Very competitive basketball game, as you would expect, and I think the Cougs are. I don't know what it is about that particular night, but I think the Cougs are hoping that somehow they can just get that draw for the rest of the year, play it on Thursday night as much as possible. I guess it would only be the first round, maybe they'd get that. So. They'll just have to win on Fridays and Saturdays as well.
First 2 rounds.
First couple rounds, the first couple rounds they can play on Thursday. So, that's interesting. Didn't
and I don't know
that.
about when they were in the American Conference or they.
This is the kind of stat though that I'm talking about. Is who thought of that? Who said, you know what?
Well, you know what?
They win a lot of games on Thursday nights.
The media relations. If anyone's ever taken the notes section, which can be 8 to 12 pages deep. Most of the time now, it's not in they copy and paste as soon as the other game. Let's say they played last night, they have already copied and pasted something that went on last night for the game tonight.
I'll also tell you when this happens. There are in June and July, especially after baseball's over and before they have to start making any kind of football push, because most of their football stuff is done. But especially if you are, and then everybody kind of has to work on football, but if you are a sport that's been over for a couple of months and you say you don't have to do golf or anything else like that that's after basketball that might go in, or track or baseball, softball, your job is to find that stuff.
Yep.
You're supposed to go through and find the things that you aren't having, double check the things that might have changed this year that maybe you didn't update because it happened on a travel night, all of those different things. I had a great many friends who were in the sports information department at Baylor years ago, and I remember going over on a June 25th to pick one of them up for lunch and walking through their offices, and they were. I mean, it was the easiest, most relaxed time around there because that's what they were doing. Hey, how many times has Baylor played this school? Mm-hmm. We have to make sure because we're playing them, and they were looking out. We're playing them in 3 years. It just got announced. We don't know how many times they played them, or the last time they played them was in the 60s, so we have to find those scores and all those things.
And they copy and then they update the stat sheet, and it's pretty tedious. But also that's what they do, not just the fact that they give out everything about certain players and the records and et cetera. Kansas State finds their coach. Casey Alexander has been at Lipscomb and then more recently at Belmont. A team in his 10 years has won 20 games or more. One note about him and a couple of things, he has not won an NCAA tournament game, but again, he's in that mid-major bracket, with our conference. And K-State finds Casey Alexander. I saw a lot of feedback from him, from those who covered the game on a national basis, and many of them pumped up for this opportunity for Casey Alexander.
Yeah, it's great. He was at Belmont, who is consistently one of the better, like calling them a mid-major school. If you've ever seen Belmont's campus, it's one of the smaller mid-majors, and they're constantly doing a good job. Great for Casey Alexander. I think, K-State's going to love him. I hope they love him. We thought they were going to love the last guy, and that didn't end well. So best of luck to Casey Alexander and K-State, and hoping this hits the ground running. He's stepping into a situation where the NIL money for basketball is way more competitive than I think you would think at a school that's K-State size. But look, we had Rob Douster on a few weeks ago, and he said, look, I didn't realize it when I got there, but the cattle money that's rolling through Manhattan, Kansas is enormous, and they love their basketball.
K-State fans, you've been holding back on the cattle money out there?
Yeah.
You're talking about Tex oil money, you're holding back on the cattle money?
Send me some steaks.
No, I haven't heard it kind of phrased that way, so now I'm going to refer to K-State and their cattle money like we talk about Tech and their oil money.
It's all big Yellowstone money.
Yeah. I don't know a ton about Casey Alexander other than what I've read, but the reviews and reception that I've seen has been mostly positive. I'd say the one detractive comment is the lack of tournament success. I think that's the thing that sticks out is, okay, we know the positives, what are the negatives? And it's that they have not had tournament success. So that's something you go, okay, I don't know about that. But then there's also a lot of stuff like 10 consecutive 20-win seasons. I mean, that's not done just willy-nilly playing nobody. 10 consecutive 20-win seasons is a pretty big deal. He had 3 regular season titles, MBC title, OVC tournament title, and his time at Belmont. Did make the tournament in 2018 with Lipscomb, runner-up in 2019, the NIT. So he's had some postseason success or some championships that he's won. But, yeah, like the big picture, show me the wins in March, those are lacking. But that's what he's at K-State to now go and accomplish. So, I'll have to learn more about him. I know that they are very good offensively, his teams, especially I think it's the three-pointer I saw as certainly a mark that they are very well regarded when it comes to that. We will see. I think I definitely, if nothing else, sense the excitement for the K-State fans who have spent the last month hand-wringing over post-game comments by Matt Driscoll or finding new ways to clown on Jerome Tang or just obsessed with who their next guy was going to be, because in a coaching search you're throwing out names left and right and you're just trying to figure out who it might be. So after 4 weeks they've got their guy, and I could sense that the Wildcat fandom was very excited about having the person in place and then being able to go like they ultimately did right away. All right, who's on the coaching staff and who's he tied to as far as recruits go, and who are some of his alumni and those types of things, and that's always fun.
One of the things that was said about him is the reason why his name has been hot, not just the records, but again, no tournament wins, is that is one of the rosters where he's been that has been rated by the other schools, the other Power 4 schools, when it comes to the transfer portal. And so
now with some more money, then maybe that's not the case.
Maybe K-State can rate his own roster by coming with him.
Well, I'm sure there. I mean, look at the offseason hires, and look at Oklahoma State, and that was all right. Half this team will be somewhat from Stillwater and somewhat from the portal, and the rest of it will be from North Texas. And I think any coach that moves over, you immediately look at his current roster and you say, who can we take from there? So I haven't gone down that pathway, but I know Kansas State fans have, so I'll check that out later. But, now with more money to spend, then the retention rate for his guys I think would be much, much higher than he was used to, and that should only bode well.
And Wes Miller out at Cincinnati, and they start their coaching search for him. He was 18-14, 5 years at Cincinnati. Didn't make the tournament, on the edge this year, but had that meltdown in the game earlier in the tournament where they had the lead and they couldn't hold on. Was that against UCF, I believe it was?
Yes.
And so and it was, the hurt. So Arizona State, of course, Cincinnati now, and then K-State has been filled. Tony Pike from a radio station, ESPN in Cincinnati, I appreciate the passion Wes Miller brought to the job. He's always been extremely nice. I wish him nothing but success. Huge hire coming up for Cincinnati basketball.
So congrats to Kansas State fans, and we'll, I'm sure, talk more about Coach Alexander as we learn more about him and he has his press conference and starts picking up players and doing all those things. So congrats to K-State fans. It's a great Friday for you guys. Congrats to Cincinnati fans. It's a great Friday for a lot of you guys as well, because I know there was a lot of talk the last couple of days about wanting to get rid of Wes Miller. And when he went on that little bit of a run towards the end of the year, it seemed like he sort of cut that off, that talk, and was going to be able to salvage at least one more year. But then the way things ended and that loss to UCF was so ugly that, I felt like there was a good chance that talk reignited, and it definitely did, and to the point where, they went ahead and made a move. And so no tournament success. I mean, nothing to really hang on to other than like a somewhat above 500 record and not a lot more than that to show for his 5 years. So I understand the decision, and good luck to Wes Miller and whatever he does next. But I am excited for Cincinnati to go and just kind of get a little injection of that fun juice that you get when you get a new coach, a new recruit, a new whatever. It may not turn out to what you want it to be, but at least in the initial phase, it's pretty fun, especially when you're tired of the old guy. So this is going to be good for them for at least the near future.
I thought he had maybe done enough down the stretch to save his job for another year, and then when they lost in the tournament to UCF, I think that kind of
the way they lost.
Then the way they lost,
that
just
was the dagger.
It didn't let the air out of the balloon; it just came and shot a dart right through it. So I think he'll be probably pretty good at what will likely be a mid-major job that he winds up at. Next, also reportedly, Cincinnati's going to wait until April 1st to make it officially official, because after April 1st, the buyout drops from $9.9 million to $4.7.
Yeah,
so,
cuts in half. Jared
smart.
Calhoun, Utah State. Travis Steele, Miami. John Gross from Akron, both in the same conference. Scott Cross from Troy. And Ben Jacobson at Northern Iowa, some of the names brought up by those who cover K-State men's basketball. We will hear Cincinnati basketball. We'll hear from Travis Hines here. You guys want to close out anything else before we get to him from the Big 12 tournament?
No, again, just congrats to K-State on what looks to be a really solid hire. Look forward to learning more about Casey Alexander. And then, congrats to Cincinnati, like I said, to your fans who are wanting Wes Miller out and being very vocal about it. You got your wish. And so, another job opens up, and now we monitor another coaching search. I don't know if they'll take a month like K-State did, because it's a different time that they're executing this move. But really intrigued by who they might land, and read some of those names you just mentioned. So we'll see there. But I think it is an exciting turning over for Cincinnati basketball.
Yeah, but think about it. Arizona State, Cincinnati, K-State, and I think everything else is pretty much going to remain the same. When we come back, Travis Hines on Red Hot Iowa State, and, of course, the atmosphere in Kansas City at the Big 12 tournament, the T-Mobile Arena, the court change, and more. Travis Hines joins us next. This is 365 Sports.
As my go-to guy, can you fix my smartphone?
Yes.
Do you have car batteries?
Yeah.
What about golf cart batteries?
Of course.
Battery from a G-Fob?
Absolutely.
My boat?
Huge variety.
Toy boat?
Sure.
Motorcycles?
You bet.
My apartment building?
Whole building.
Do you have batteries for my party lights?
Yeah.
Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
It's time to compete against yourself, finding too many excuses not to work out combined with bad eating habits, and Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness can help reach inside your competitive soul. Discipline, getting results you've only dreamed about, personal training, group exercise classes, and even a tanning bed, world-class tennis facility, and pickleball courts and lessons available. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness, spacious, clean workout rooms, free weights, state-of-the-art technology, weight training equipment, and no intimidation. It's time for you to react today, not tomorrow, at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at alliancebanktexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
When you play hard, sometimes you fall hard. Sports injuries require special treatment. At Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, our team of expert doctors provides athletes and active adults with comprehensive sports medicine care, diagnostics. Whether you're in high school, college, or beyond, we'll help you get back on the field. Call on the team physicians for Baylor Athletics. Call Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics.
Whatever it is you wrangle, whatever seeds you sow, no matter what you nurture or what you choose to grow, at Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, we're proud to protect all Texans.
You got batteries for my side-by-side?
Yes.
Replace my flashlight?
Sure thing. What about my business?
Oh, good one.
100%. Batteries for my fleet of trucks?
Gas floor scrubbers?
Yes, and fire panels. We have pallets of batteries.
Well, what about...
As your go-to guy, if it needs a battery, we have it.
Well, that's all you had to say.
Could have led with that.
Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
This 3 o'clock hour is brought to you by QC Kinetics. Feel better, move better, live better with regenerative medicine using your body's own healing abilities for natural pain relief. No surgery, no drugs, no downtime. With locations in Dallas and Houston at QCkinetics.com. Now it's time for 365 Sports.
Here we go, back-to-back segments on the Kansas City, the Big 12 tournament, basketball in general. Travis Hines, the Des Moines Register, joins us. He's up there. He covers Iowa State, but covers the entire full meal deal, joins us on 365 Sports. So, Travis, the court, the floor has been changed out. What was your perspective being there, and also have you had a chance to look at it yet?
Yeah, so the LED court, I think, was a good idea, or at least something worth trying. I think in practice, though, the pros certainly did not outweigh the cons. And I think just watching the game up close over the last 3 days, guys were consistently slipping over and over again and losing their footing. And you saw it in the Iowa State-Texas Tech game where there were injuries that looked like, I don't know that you could say directly related to the floor, but certainly anecdotally look related to the floor. So I commend the Big 12 both for trying something different that seemed like a good idea, but also being able to pivot away from it when it did become not only a safety issue, but such a talking point, taking away from, what should be an incredible evening of basketball tonight at the T-Mobile Center.
Do you think that Brett Yormark got maybe a little too excited when they showed it to him, and then they were like, nobody's going to slip. It'll be fine.
It definitely fits with the character of the league under the commissioner, certainly of flash and glitz, and it got a lot of headlines. It's got a lot of people talking about Big 12 basketball. I don't think in a way that they probably would have preferred, but certainly it did its job in terms of getting eyeballs on Big 12 basketball for a few days, and really getting a lot of people talking about this tournament.
So, Travis, tonight, Arizona, we're getting down to the nitty-gritty here. And, man, this is – I do agree with your mark, and let's focus on the great basketball and not so much on the court, and I think he's dead on with that. So, kind of how would you summarize Iowa State's path so far? And then, of course, this matchup tonight that's got all sorts of just fun things that we can talk about here.
Yeah, the path so far has been one of destruction for Iowa State. They set the Big 12 tournament record by beating Arizona State by 49 on Wednesday. They absolutely dismantled Texas Tech after the first 5 minutes yesterday. Iowa State's playing really, really good basketball. But tonight they run up against a team that has played among the best basketball across the country all year long and absolutely hammered them in Tucson, just a little over a week ago. And this is a really difficult matchup for Iowa State, but it's a difficult matchup for any team in the country. Arizona is really, really good. After they beat Iowa State last week or a week before, TJ Otzelberger said he thought that was maybe the best team that they've played in his 5 years at Iowa State. And they have played national champions, and they have played Final Four teams throughout that time. So that is high praise from a guy that doesn't offer, a lot of sugarcoating or isn't going to pump sunshine. Like when he says that, he means it. And so I think this is a difficult matchup for Iowa State tonight, specifically because the way that Arizona can plug the paint and make life really difficult for Iowa State. In that game in Tucson, they shot, I think, 29% from the field, 7 of 30 from three. Like if Iowa State is going to win tonight, I think it's going to have to be at the 3-point line. They've got to be able to stretch that Arizona defense a little bit and use the power of that 50% extra point from the 3-point line.
Travis, they were in the conference. You could burp and lose 3 out of 4, or maybe 5 out of 7, or 3 in a row. And that's what happened with Iowa State. They lost to TCU, BYU, both road games, then Tech at home, and then at Arizona. So that's not like you should be sent home or put in the corner. But what are they doing now? Because they're going to start playing those same teams that have. What are they doing now perhaps that's better?
I think it starts with their defense. Like obviously under TJ Otzelberger, they have been a top 10, top 15 defense year in and year out. And when they're able to generate turnovers, when they're able to ratchet up the ball pressure, that really unlocks everything for them, both defensively and offensively. And I think they've been really good over the last couple of days here in Kansas City in doing that. And when you look at the games that they lost this year, they lose the game at home to Tech, their only loss at home, where Tech absolutely shot the lights out. It was some of the best shot making I have seen in the Big 12 in the last couple of years. Tech was that good. And then the rest of those losses are all on the road where Iowa State just didn't play well. They didn't shoot it well. They didn't defend well. And that has really kind of been the story of the last month for them, is just really struggling against good teams on the road. When they've played the middle and bottom of the Big 12, they've been nails. But when they've gotten to that top tier of the league away from home, that's where they've struggled. And obviously they're going to, I would imagine, have a decided rooting advantage over Arizona tonight. This being Iowa State fans love calling this building Hilton South. So this certainly will not be a road game, and it's probably not even going to be a true neutral site game. Although we'll see how many Kansas fans show up to and who they cheer for as well. So there will be a little rivalry there. But that is the thing for Iowa State. Let's see them play well against the best teams in the country away from Hilton Coliseum. We've seen them beat Kansas. We've seen them beat Houston. And at home in the last couple months, we haven't seen them play their best basketball against the top of the Big 12 away from Hilton, really until yesterday against Texas Tech.
Did they kind of come in mad? I mean, it seems like they're playing like we're no holds barred because I think that if I'm them, I'd be mad at myself because I would have thought that most of the season I should have been a higher seed than Texas Tech, and here I'm having to play on Wednesday instead of waiting until Thursday.
Yeah, I mean, I think certainly, you look, they've been a top 5 team for the majority of the year. They've been a top 10 team for almost the entire year. And I don't think that they really get talked about as that Final Four, that national title contender that they probably would be in a normal year. Some of that is the losses down the stretch. I think certainly the strength of those top 4 teams nationally that we expect to be 1 seeds on Sunday being, out in front of everybody is playing into some of that. But listen, this is a really good team. The trio of Taman Lipsey, Joshua Jefferson, and Milan Momcilovic, you can put that up against the top 3 of any team in the country, and they're not giving much ground there. This is a very, very good team. And I think when they come to a place where they feel like it's part of the identity and culture of the program to perform well in, I think they've got a little extra something to prove this week.
Explain Hilton South and the magic of the fan base. Obviously not a very long drive. It's not for K-State, KU, and Iowa State. But kind of explain a little bit of that and the pride that they have.
Yeah, it has definitely become one of the defining characteristics of the fan base and the program in the last 12 years. I think the first one that started this was the 2014 one, which was their first since 2000. And it's less than a 3-hour drive from Ames. It's almost 2.5 from Des Moines. It is very easy for people to come down, after work, or to take, if you left work a couple hours early today, you can be here for tip-off, no problem. And it has become a point of pride where Iowa State fans take over the Power and Light District across the street, and that it is something that they really hang their hat on. And that's why I think it continues to happen. And I don't think that's an accident why they've been so successful down here, because they really do get a home court advantage. The game yesterday, it's 11:30 a.m. Thursday tip. that should be a sleepy gym. The entire bowl was filled, and then it was electric in there. And you don't get that at a lot of different tournaments. And certainly even in this tournament, you don't always get that, if it's not one of those local teams. And Iowa State has done a great job, its fan base, of, really flooding this building year after year.
Travis, one of the things, I used to be able to go every year to the Big 12 tournament. And one thing that's wild about Iowa State fans is they have all those ones that are filling up the games right now, but they have a bunch of them that are just watching the game either in the Power and Light or over in Westport, or go to Kelly's after the game in Westport. Believe me, they're full of them over there, that will wait until Saturday. And those teams that were fans that were convinced, like if it's Arizona or Houston or whoever, were convinced their team was going to be in on Saturday, and they burn their tickets, like they'll get them in for cheap, and that thing will be filled with a bunch of beer-loaded Iowa State fans, won't it?
Yeah, I know plenty of people that are coming down today that don't have tickets. They'll probably try to get tickets, but if they're going to be expensive, which I imagine they are, with Iowa State playing at 6 and Kansas playing at 8, they'll be perfectly happy to watch from a bar and then meet everybody up after the game. It is a party, like almost a reunion atmosphere for Iowa State fans when they come to Kansas City for the Big 12 tournament.
One quick note on football. With the change in coaches, Matt Campbell, of course, at Penn State. We've had you on since then, Travis, but with all things starting to crank up, and as far as spring football here, for a lot that are going on, some that will be, your thoughts about anything you want to share with us about the Cyclones in football?
Yeah, they haven't gotten started yet. I think they get started after Iowa State's spring break, which is next week. And it's going to be a critical spring for them. It's so much newness between the coaching staff and the roster, and just implementing what they want to be able to do in the fall. It's going to be critical for them to make the most of all those practices, to get on the same page, for the coaches to know what they've got. Like, a lot of these guys that they recruited in through the transfer portal, sure, they know them, they've seen tape, but a lot of them haven't coached them up on the field and put them in competition and, tried to sort out a depth chart. So it's going to be a very critical spring for Iowa State to try to build some momentum going into the fall, because there will be patience for Jimmy Rogers. He took over in a tough spot in terms of the roster and how much of it left for Penn State, but he's also coming into a place that has experienced the best 10 years that it has ever had in football, and is not willing to go back to the dark ages of what preceded that, of losing season after losing season. So there will be some urgency for them to play well and win some games in this first season.
Okay, Casey Alexander is going to be hired by K-State. Cincinnati's now open. Arizona State is now open. Any thoughts about, you ever seen Casey? I don't think that Iowa State's played where he's been at the time. Any thoughts about that hire?
No, I don't. I haven't seen him play very much. I feel like when you hire a guy that's had the success that he's had at multiple places, and I think this is important for Kansas State with how the bottom kind of fell out, is that it seems like a high floor. What the ceiling is, who knows? Kansas State has, it seems, pretty decent NIL situation for their men's basketball program that they'll be able to build out a roster. But it does seem like he is a floor raiser that's going to get Kansas State, back into the mix in the middle of the Big 12. And I think that's important for them with how, I was down there in February when things really started to turn for Jerome Tang. And that is a proud fan base that cares deeply about basketball, and the level of apathy and vitriol and, toxicity was incredible. So I think for them to get stabilized on level ground and start building back up is going to be really important.
Thank you, man. Great to see you. Enjoy tonight. I know you will, and maybe will tomorrow too, with Travis Hines, the Des Moines Register, covering Iowa State men's basketball on a heater.
They are absolutely on a heater. And they've come out there with a vengeance, and they weren't even, I would even say the first half yesterday, they weren't as hot as they could be, and they still won that game by a bunch. Part of that was also, they're playing Tech, but Tech was not, was not on fire, as we know, the whole game. But, yeah, they could play through kind of an uneven first half and still win a game by 20 points. That was impressive.
Yeah, it's good to see, given they didn't close the regular season on the strongest of notes. They ran into some of the tougher teams there at the end, but, stumbled a bit and then got into Kansas City play, and they've been tearing it up. Beat Arizona State at home to close out the regular season, turned right around and smacked them around again, and then turned around and beat up Tech. And so, we'll see what is in store with Arizona, but that ought to be a hell of a basketball game.
Now, to say that, you mentioned Arizona State. They did beat them twice, and so that can help you get healthy. Then they did thump Tech as we mentioned last round, they played Utah and won that game too. So they still need to piece some things together. But what a good team! What an explosive team!
They just had that. It was like 3 out of the 4 losses was all to ranked teams.
BYU, Tech, and Arizona.
It was all the ranked teams,
Yeah.
and they had beaten a couple of ranked teams right before that. So it was like they had beaten a couple top 25 teams and lost like 3 of 4, but all were the top 25 teams. So that was just the Big 12 schedule working its voodoo with just having a bunch of those there at the end for them clustered. So that was a team that took a couple losses there at the end, but against really good teams, and now has turned the page over into the postseason and has been pretty damn impressive. And we know they'll have the backing, as Travis talked about, as we've talked about earlier today as well. There's going to be a lot of red and gold there in Kansas City, as there typically is, and so that'll be a hell of a basketball game. I mean, 2 very proud programs and 2 fan bases that know basketball, that basketball is their number one, and it shows. And I think it remains to be seen on what the Zona contingent will look like. But as I mentioned earlier, there's also a couple of other fan bases that are looking around going, we're going to sit in the Arizona section, the Houston fans, and the who's on the other side? Kansas fans. They're going to go sit over in the Iowa State section and try to, or the Arizona section, and try to root them on because. You want to avoid the Hilton South crowd if you can, if at all possible.
It's going to be loaded. It's going to be great. Arizona will have a chunk, and whoever wins, of course, will be into the next round, the championship game up at T-Mobile Arena that's been changed, the court, the floor in Kansas City. All right, coming up in the next hour, we'll have Ari Temkin from Kansas City. He, of course, does the Big 12 radio on TuneIn, and a lot of other good stuff, I think. Nuggets, tweets, stories, and more. One of them is the list of the top 25 college football coaches by Bruce Feldman that got a lot of reaction, and we'll give it reaction too in the 4 o'clock hour. We appreciate your time. Ari Temkin, Big 12 Radio, next from Kansas City on 365 Sports. The Baylor Club tonight, surf and turf. They have pictures, images of their menus and the specials on specific nights, and man, my God, it's a huge steak and a big, huge lobster tail. I mean, everything you would want. It is delicious, and they will have that as their special tonight. If you're a member, you get it. If you're not, why don't you become one? Nick Caldwell, the general manager, has done an amazing job, as his staff and others, to renovate, brighten up, and more space around the Baylor Club available. Then the Smoak prime rib tomorrow. That is awesome, too. They have specials to unveil all of the new changes if you're there or not, but they do have memberships available, and think about that. Nick Caldwell and the Baylor Club inside McLean Stadium off I-35 in Waco.
I pitched in the major leagues for 24 years, and let me tell you, I can feel it in my joints. Shoulders, elbows, and knees. Trust me, pain doesn't retire when you do. I tried everything to get rid of the pain. Nothing worked until QC Kinetics.
Baseball legend Roger Clemens and other patients are getting lasting relief with QC Kinetics regenerative treatments. No surgery.
I trust QC Kinetics. You should too. Let's commit to getting rid of all the pain.
Schedule your free consultation today. QC Kinetics. Better starts here.
For anyone that's in the car buying mode or looking for a car right now or a truck, I would definitely come by Allen Samuels, get to know the people here like I have, how well I'm taking care of the dealership and how well, service and any kind of warranty issues and those sort of things. Because the way they take care of me, it's made me a Ram driver. I said I don't think they'd want to go anywhere else if they came here.
Like Allen Samuels always said, Waco has a lot to offer, and so do we at Allen Samuels Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Come by, let's be friends.
Hello, I'm Camille Johnson with Camille Johnson Realtors. We specialize in selling residential real estate agent all across our community, and we love serving all types of families. We have been in business at Camille Johnson Realtors for almost 9 years, and I have been a residential real estate agent for almost 40 years. And we love our partnership with 365. So thank you for partnering with me, and thank you so much to all of my clients who have made our company a success.
Serving Central Texas since 1889, TFNB Your Bank for Life takes pride in being more than a bank. At TFNB, we remain committed to these principles. If you value them too, come join us. TFNB, Your Bank for Life.
Petty Clinic Men's Healthcare in Woodway is now proud to offer you men an exceptional weight management body sculpting product called semaglutide, also known as Ozempic or Wegovy. Semaglutide is an FDA-approved weight management medication. Once-a-week injections of this powerful medication offers an average body fat weight loss of 20% within the first year of treatment. In addition to body sculpting, semaglutide also normalizes blood sugars and has the clinical research proof of reducing blood pressure, cholesterol, stroke, and heart attack risk. If you're like most men and you have stubborn fat that will just not respond to typical diets and exercise, then help is finally here. Semaglutide, affordable, highly effective. Google search Petty Clinic Waco and reach out to the Petty Clinic team today for a free consultation with Dr. Petty to see if semaglutide is right for you. Go to pettycliniclowt.com.
This 4 o'clock hour is brought to you by Stonewood Dental, your one-stop shop for your dental needs, specializing in teeth cleaning, fillings, crowns, sealants, root canals, IV sedation, extractions, implants, bridges, dentures, full mouth restorations, and bioaesthetic dentistry. Our priority is your comfort from the moment you walk through the front door. Stonewood Dental in Robinson, Texas. Now it's time for 365 Sports.
Here we go. We'll have Ari Temkin from Big 12 Radio momentarily. Games going on that are not yet final. The Wisconsin Badgers flipped the switch against Illinois. They were down, now up 5 with 27 seconds left in overtime. Both teams are ranked. Both teams will be in the tournament, but that's a nice Wisconsin. When you hear analysts look at teams that aren't a part of that chunk of 8 to 10, they're one of them that they feel like is dangerous, and they lead Illinois in overtime in a Big Ten quarterfinal round game.
Well, that'd be a huge win for Luke Fickell, and he really needs those kind of things right now.
It's a lot of points. Their offense is rolling, 88.
No, it sounds like a heck of a game. One thing we haven't, and we've got a lot at our disposal here in this studio that we're still working out. The one thing we're missing this time of year especially is like the screen to watch the basketball games because they're all going on while we're on air. But that looks like it's been a hell of a game, and, Wisconsin now trying to hold on there in that Big Ten tournament. Also got SEC, Tennessee, and Vanderbilt tied at 31 at halftime. So
two really good teams, both in the top 25. Yep.
Yeah, 2 top 25 teams and a little Nashville action there for you, Vols and Commodores. And that's about it for right now.
Well, Florida won their 12th straight, beat Kentucky by 8 earlier today.
See, they're a problem, and I feel like we had this conversation 2 or 3 weeks ago.
I was wrong.
About the Big 12. Well, we can get to
about
that.
Florida.
But like the point I was going to make real quick is that the Big 12 is very, very good, very stout, very heavy at the top, and they've got some contenders. But like it's really important for them to win a national title in basketball to really plant your flag and wave it. And I have a feeling that like Florida's just going to be that team that's so good that they're like it's not that the league they're playing in is superior. It's not that there's anything other than you've got a bunch of really good teams, but they've got like a great team, and that team prevents Houston last year from winning the title. Prevents Tech or Iowa State from winning the title this year, kind of scenario.
They've won back-to-back before. It was a long time ago.
I remember it. That dirty hippie Joakim Noah.
And Michigan beat Ohio State also in a game in the Big Ten earlier today.
Yes. But a couple weeks ago we were talking about Florida, and I was like, they don't have that oomph to me that they did last year where they were terrifying. And then after that, like they fully revealed how terrifying they are. They drilled Kentucky. They drilled Kentucky a couple times here in the last week and a half. So, they're a very, very good team, and they've pretty much locked up the 1 seed. I think Houston may be the only one who can maybe get up and grab it from them, but they're going to have to lose in the final game, and Houston's going to have to win the whole thing for that to even be a discussion now, I think.
I just saw a picture from John Walters, who's the voice of course, Iowa State in football and basketball. The picture of the court, the Big 12 court that was flipped overnight. Ari Temkin, Big 12 Radio on TuneIn, joins us on 365 Sports. Ari, can you sleep better? You won't get migraines now with the new court?
Well. The court's become a huge story.
Yes.
Everybody was, before we were talking, guys, everybody was worried or concerned that it was not a big enough deal, that announcement wasn't that big of a deal. The court's dominated the storylines. And, look, I mean, I think, there's the, Jeff Goodman, they should have never done this, approach. And, look, I think this is kind of what Brett Yormark is. Like, he's going to take chances, take risks. I think, I think there were a lot of good reasons for why they took the chance and the risk of doing it. And, maybe even better for the Big 12 to make the decision that, hey, this is not in the best interests of these teams. So let's get the court back out here for the semifinal game. So I think, they took a shot. Maybe the kinks aren't fully worked out with ASB Glass Floor, and way to pivot and, transition away from that when they recognize it was probably not the right move.
Ari, I've created several fictitious scenarios in my head with the 4 semifinal coaches, with TJ Otzelberger as like the muscle, Bill Self as the most successful one, Kelvin Sampson is kind of the low key sarcastic one, and then Tommy Lloyd is like the new kid on the block, like all stepping up to Brett Yormark and telling him, like, listen, we're not going out there until this court's changed. But how do you think how did it all really go down?
Yeah, being in Kansas City, we were pretty much front and center for the whole situation. Let's start from the beginning, right? I mean, Brett Yormark didn't make a decision to partner with ASB Glass Floor alone. This was a long process with athletic directors, with coaches, with administrators. So, first they got the buy-in from everybody, and I think the Texas Tech game yesterday was a pretty big wake-up call. There were a lot of upset feelings and people associated with Texas Tech, and was the Christian Anderson injury or slippage associated with the court. And so, I think, Paul, it was the Texas Tech game. And that was when the conversation, I think, within the Big 12 office has started to really percolate in terms of, do we make a switch here? And, after the quarterfinal games went final and you had the 4 coaches, I think, all 4 coaches probably shared the same sentiment about, yeah, maybe let's change this out, especially because it was on the table at that point. I mean, look, all the coaches, there were some complaints, no doubt about it, but there were also a lot of public, sentiments around the court being fine. I mean, it felt like the teams that complained were the teams that lost on the court more than anything. And look, was it more slippery? I don't know that I believe that. However, I understand that it is a different playing surface. It is not hardwood. It is a different playing surface. And so maybe if the teams were and the players were used to it, they wouldn't feel like, oh, it's more slippery. But I don't know that it's more slippery, more so than I just know that it's different. And I think different is what caused the issues here. But it was the Texas Tech game where it felt like Iowa State, Taman Lipsey slipped a few times, Christian Anderson, Lawan Watts. And I think because of that, the league really started to have some internal discussions. And, yeah, meeting with athletic directors. I know Kirby Hocutt and Brett Yormark met, during that game. I know Brett Yormark met with other administrators during quarterfinal games, and it came to pass, shortly after 11 o'clock last night.
Ari, even with the issues that were cited by, I mean, like you said, the opinions were kind of all over the spectrum. For every coach that said he didn't like it, there was one that said he didn't care, and another that said he did like it. Like, it was just sort of everywhere. But I see the potential. Like, I see why people were excited about it. Watching the Arizona State basketball team, like a little social video they did where they're running around and they're like putting a map over the court and they're running around like, I'm from Lithuania or wherever, like they're running around on a track. Was all like very fun. So I see the appeal. What was your impression just kind of being up close to it? Like, what stood out to you about it, if anything?
Yeah, I mean, Craig, you're exactly right. Like the possibilities are endless. I mean, you just walked through some of it, but think about it from the perspective of a coach being able to diagram plays on the floor in real time during a huddle. I mean, like, there's just an endless amount of possibilities with it. And I stand by what I said, which is within the next 10 years, I believe these will be standardized. That's, again, not to say there aren't things to work out. But again, I also think part of this is just not being used to it. It is a different playing surface. And so not being used to it could cause some potential issues. But I mean, I thought it looked really cool. I like what they did with it. I mean, there was different graphics that they were able to put up during the game. They probably didn't really get to the full breadth of the potential there, and then basically spent the entire. I mean, they started to tear it down at 12:30. I woke up at 5 for my show at 7. By the time I got to the stadium, at about 5:36, the entire court was up. It was concrete, and then they were back to laying the floor down. The wood from last year. It's the court that they used in last year's tournament. It was already on site, and it was actually like one of the more compelling things to watch. Amazingly, to watch them kind of put all the pieces together. But and this was definitely a PR hit for ASB Floors. But look, ASB Glass Floor is working with the NBA. They have an office in America in Orlando with the NBA's headquarters. So it's not going anywhere. It's not going away. I get kind of again, like there were some writers that are like, they should have never tried this. And it's like, what's the lesson there is never try new things. Just always go with the old things. Like, I think there should be a credit for like trying new things. It didn't work. And then shifting and pivoting, and not chasing bad money for, continuing to do it, just take the loss and whatever it is and move on. So, I mean, I think just the way that it was used was really cool, especially in stadium. Everybody was talking about it. You couldn't not talk about it. People were curious about it. And like the possibilities for the future of it are endless in terms of sponsorship, graphical elements, entertainment. And then of course, like, I think there's like a practical coaching use to it too, where you can like diagram stuff and instead of a whiteboard, you can just draw right on the floor.
How much do you think it hated Yormark hated to have to pivot? At least he did. He had the idea. He wanted to go with it, but then when it became a big problem, which really was even last week, how much do you think it just pissed him off he had to make this decision?
Smokey, I think one of the things about Yormark is as quickly as he makes decisions and executes on things, he's willing to evaluate and reevaluate. I mean, he's the type of guy that isn't stubborn by sticking to things that aren't working. I mean, and there's a laundry list of things. I mean, they did the New York City basketball thing the first year and haven't been back since. So, I mean, I think like if there's one thing that stands out to me about Brett Yormark, it's a willingness to try things, a willingness to experiment, a willingness to explore, and a willingness subsequently to back away from those things if it's not working. I mean, I could tell you that right away, and like during the Texas Tech game, Brett Yormark was having the necessary conversations with all of the people involved internally, as well as Kirby Hocutt, the athletic director at Texas Tech. So this was very quick in terms of action to try to get things happening. So, like, I'm sure there was a level of him that was upset. I'm sure there was a level of him that was upset to have that conversation with ASB Glass Floor because, again, they're next on the line now in terms of this didn't work. It was kind of a PR nightmare for them. It probably looks better for the Big 12 than it does for the Glass Floor company. And they'll be fine, but it's just, I'm sure that conversation was tough, especially given the kind of agreement that they had. But look, I think this is, one thing to really admire Yormark about is as fast as things get done and as much as he's priding himself on ingenuity and new things and all that jazz, like he's also willing to pivot and move away if things aren't working. And so, yeah, I mean, people will question, should they have done this during the women's game? I don't think the cries were this loud. There weren't injuries to speak of that may have exacerbated it. But the Christian Anderson, you could tell he slipped a little bit. He was kind of grabbing on his groin. You could tell his face. He was grimacing, like he was playing even after the fact, but he was not the same. And I think that the conversation started there. And I bet you there was a quick decision that was made in order to do this, to change it out. That was kind of made based on the safety, and really comfortability of the players moving forward.
Okay, to the basketball now. We've seen some great, some bad basketball, but Iowa State is on a mission right now. Ari, what do you think kind of turned it on for them as they got to Kansas City?
And by the way, as wrong as you might have been about Florida, you've apparently been right about Kansas, Paul. So just to remove your own Florida State biases, and you might get things right.
Don't lift him back up, Ari. Come on, man. Let him wallow in there.
Yeah.
Well, because I knew it was coming up anyways, Craig. Like I knew he was going to come up at some point. So, what was the question, Paul?
Iowa State. What do you think?
Iowa State. Yeah. Well, I mean, first of all, if there's, for as many Kansas fans as there are here in Kansas City, there's as many, if not more, Iowa State fans. I mean, for that game at 11:30 on a Thursday, it was pretty much 75% full. And so, I mean, they feed off of that. I mean, the building is jazzed and energized and lit up. Look, I think Iowa State goes as Joshua Jefferson goes. And when he has an off game, their offense is hard to come by. And when he has a big game like he did yesterday, then suddenly it opens up offense for everybody else. I mean, I also like the way that they've kind of added some depth here. Dominicus Plata has come off the bench now and given them some good minutes and some scoring from the interior. We saw Jamarian Bateman, really finished that first half strong. He hit a three. The game was tied 33-33, and then Bateman hit a three right before half to make it 36-33. And then Iowa State outscored Texas Tech like 60-20 in the second half. I mean, not exactly, but pretty much. And I mean, yeah, the first two games, I can tell you pretty confidently, the ASB glass floor did not seem to bother Iowa State because on that glass floor, they look like the greatest basketball team ever assembled. And so they may have a complaint if they lose tonight to say, bring the glass floor back. We played so well on it. But yeah, I mean, look, I think this is an elite defensive team. They do at times struggle in terms of their offense where it can get into lulls. And that's where I think like they've really got to get Joshua Jefferson going, because once he gets going, that kind of opens up everything else. Because Taven Lipsey's hit 7 threes in 2 games. If you remember, guys, his freshman year, I mean, in this tournament, teams were sagging off of him and weren't even guarding him. And that's something that's motivated him in his time now in the last 3 years in order to get his shot. He's hit 7 threes. Bateman, Momchilovich. I mean, they've got the shooters to kind of surround Jefferson as he's able to get in the lane. So I think this is a team that certainly can make a Final Four run. It's an elite defensive team, and we saw that, I think, mostly in the second half. And I think they go as Joshua Jefferson goes.
So BYU has bowed out, although they have at least one more game to play, and we'll see how many rounds they can go deep. But they didn't bow out before AJ DeBansa broke Kevin Durant's tournament record. And like the thing is now, it's it's like win or go home, and so we don't know how many more games we're going to see this guy in a BYU uniform or in college, period. But your thoughts on just DeBansa as advertised, the splash that everybody thought he could be, he was, and maybe more Ari, and just kind of the show he was putting on here over the last couple of days.
Yeah, I mean, and not only did he bypass Kevin Durant's total scoring in the tournament, but he had the better individual game too with the 40-point performance he had in the first round. Look, I mean, he as much as Derek Peterson took games off and rested and didn't play as many minutes, DeBansa, I mean, showed up in a big way. I mean, the minutes he averaged this year, I mean, he put this team on his back. I think Kevin Young has got to really take a long, hard look in the mirror after this season and figure out, what kind of physicality he wants to bring in terms of the culture of his team and what type of a defense that his team needs to have moving forward. Look, they had that big three with Saunders and Rob Wright and DeBansa, and when Richie Saunders went down, it meant that so much of the offensive load had to be put on DeBansa, and he was up for the task, which is why I think he broke Kevin Durant's record, because he was just the only piece that they really had. I just don't think you can win big, and they're spending a ton of money on rosters with 105th ranked defense in Ken Palm, and that's just kind of where they've been. And that's not a commentary on DeBansa at all, other than the fact of like they're going to continue to recruit at a high level. I know they already picked up a 5-star kid that committed the other day. But like for them to not only marry the 5-star recruits that they're constantly bringing in with an elite team that can make a deep run, they've got to figure out what they want to be defensively. Like 2 times against Houston, those games were almost carbon copies. In fact, the exact same final score in both of those games. And it's like Houston is the physical team. Like they get off the bus, that's a physical team. BYU's more finesse, and it's like the game's close, comes down to the last few minutes, and that's when Houston just their physicality just takes over. And so, I thought that was the difference in the game last night. I thought it was the difference in the series with Houston. I think it's a big reason of what's holding BYU back in terms of being at the top of the food chain in the Big 12, despite having one of the more expensive rosters in the Big 12. But to your question, Craig, I mean, if Derek Peterson's the most talented player in the conference, DeBansa was the best player in the conference, even though Jaden Bradley won Conference Player of the Year, and I agree with it because I don't think that team the best player on the 10th best team in the Big 12 should have won it. But I mean, the guy was a machine. He was the number 1 scorer in the country. I still probably, if I'm picking first in the NBA draft, taking Peterson, but I feel like the more I do it, the more I talk myself into DeBansa because of what he showed this year. But I think he's got the potential to be a better defender than he's shown. part of it is I just think he got lost in a situation with BYU where they just don't have great, defensive schematics, one, and then two, when your usage rate is so high on the offensive end, good luck, having anything left on the defensive end. They needed DeBonsa to give everything he had on the offensive end, which meant he had nothing left for the defensive end.
And he did not blink once Saunders went down. He got better, as if he could get better, but he did. Did you feel like Kevin Young, he was not happy? He felt like the game, there should have been, I think he said DeBonsa should have shot 15 or 20 free throws. But if that's what he knew going in with Houston, they need to mentally and physically be ready. But you can't just flip that switch if you're not physical yourself.
That's exactly right. I couldn't have said it any better, right? Like, this is a team that's not used to the physicality. And, it's funny because in the game before, Houston can get called for a bunch of whistles. And so, it can go either way depending on who the officials are. And that's, I think, a potential negative for Houston heading into the tournament. If you get bad officials or officials that want to call a close game, then that's going to really hurt Houston despite their depth. And look, they called a ton of fouls in the Kansas game late at night, which obviously helped Kansas as they shot 31 free throws. But you got to have guys that want to get to the rim. DeBonsa did. And I tend to agree a little bit with Kevin Young, but at the same time, I think you're exactly right, Smokey. Like, you're not a physical team. You're not used to that style, and they are. And sometimes officials let teams get away with things based on how they are stylistically.
Or wearing the uniform. If they were to BYU would have been wearing KU uniforms, would that have changed things up a little bit?
Well, Ari, to bring it back to Kansas, and Houston tonight, I think Darren Peterson, the game he had yesterday was very similar to the one I thought he played against Houston, where he wasn't all world scoring, from the field, but he got done what he needed to get done. He's a really good defensive player. For Houston on the other side, could it be kind of like the last time they were in this region and played Kansas, or do you think that this team has, since that time, kind of turned it around and put that loss behind them?
It's a great question. Look, I tend to think like these kinds of matchups tend to split during the regular season, during the season. And so it feels like it's one that favors Houston. I'll go back to the conversation, Paul, you and I have been having kind of the entire season. I think Kansas has really turned a corner, and it started with that Arizona State game, which is really weird to say, but the first half, they just laid an egg in that Arizona State game. Second half, though, they came out with fight, but it's more of the way in which the team played together. We've been watching this team be sort of two teams where you had, Darren Peterson version where Peterson would go to work with the ball, and it was like everybody would stand around and watch him. And then the other team was like the more inclusive team that was played together. And, I think we've slowly seen that mold to one team. And I think last night's game was another good example of it. Like, Darren Peterson is not just standing on the perimeter and hawking up shots or going one-on-one in situations. He's playing within the flow of the offense, which is something we've really started to see the last few weeks. We're also not talking about his minutes anymore, which is a huge breakthrough because that's no longer a thing because he's playing majority minutes. And I thought last night, look, he shot a very low percentage. He did not hit a lot of his shots, but it's a close game, and in closing time, they went to him, and he delivered. He hit a big shot that basically clinched the game for him, and if he didn't hit shots, he was still getting the free throw line because of his aggressiveness. So, these are obviously two different teams than the last time they played, but I think Kansas, this is a version that has me believing this is a team that can make a deep run because they're really playing together now in a way that we didn't see. And the last thing I'll say on this is, when the season started, one of the big complaints or negatives about Kansas was, are they just going to be Darren Peterson and it's just going to be him and there's nobody else that's going to step up? There wasn't thought to be much scoring or depth or punch beyond Peterson. And, because of the way the Peterson situation has been handled this year, it's sort of forced guys to have to take on bigger roles. And so guys have emerged: Bryson Tiller, Melvin Council, Elmarco Jackson. They've been empowered in ways that maybe they wouldn't have if Peterson was playing the DeBonsa type minutes. And so, the last night I thought was just the perfect example of what Kansas can be at their best. They didn't shoot at a high percentage at all, but it's a close game. A bunch of guys contributed in a meaningful way, and in closing time, they went to Darren Peterson. In terms of Houston, Chase McCarty, where'd this guy come from? They're starting to really expand their bench. One of the things that made them special last year was not just, their starting five, but their ability to go off the bench and bring in an Arsenault, bring in a Malik Wilson. That's one of the pieces they've been missing, and so I think they're looking at Chase McCarty and Mercy Miller as being those pieces that they've been missing. But we still haven't seen Houston play as good a basketball as we know they're capable of. They've been carried by Kingston Flemings. I think it's had a negative impact on Milos Uzan, and they're going to need Uzan to make a run in order to get deep into this tournament. The other thing is motivation. Not to say Houston's not motivated, because they always are, because it's Kelvin Sampson's team, but they're pretty much locked into the 2 seed in Houston. And they don't want to go anywhere else. Like, that's perfect for them. They're going to play at Toyota Center in a potential Elite 8 matchup with Florida, which has happened before, and it would be amazing. Just coincidentally, it'd be the second time that Florida and Houston were playing in the state of Texas. Obviously, this one a little bit closer than San Antonio, but Kansas, I think, has a lot more to gain in terms of seeding. I don't know how Kansas is not on the 3 line. Gonzaga is right now. Gonzaga's played 9 quad 1 games. Kansas has 9 quad 1 wins. Gonzaga's played 18 quad 3, quad 4 games and lost 1 in the quad 3 to Portland State. Kansas has played 7 quad 3, quad 4 games. I don't know what we're even talking about here, but somehow Kansas is a 4 seed and Gonzaga is a 3 seed. So I think that Kansas has a lot more to gain in terms of trying to prove and get to that 3 line, whereas Houston's pretty locked into the 2.
All right, last thing, and please, are you in the back of like a bus, like your own private bus, the back, a hotel room? Are you in a Learjet in a cat? Oh, okay, yeah, you are. Yeah, you are. You're set up. I saw that plane behind you. Damn, that's a big room, man. That's a nice room.
Are they making you share?
Yeah. I
No.
thought I saw 2 beds.
No.
Okay, good. Yeah.
Yeah. There we go.
Oh, yeah, there you go. All right.
I
Very
know
nice.
I know exactly where you are. I'm not going to say because I don't want the fans to come storming.
In a hotel.
Yeah, but I know which one.
Yeah.
All right. Lowe's? What do you? Come on, Paul.
I don't want everybody to be like charging me like, oh my God, Ari Temkin's here. Then you go down to the lobby and you can't, you can't just go get,
It's
a quick cup of coffee.
It's always an issue for me, Paul. You know that.
Yeah.
And I just
you
can't
always,
keep them off.
Always have a Sharpie. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate it, Ari. Thanks for jumping in. Have a great weekend. Thank you.
Be well.
Ari Temkin, Big 12 Radio, on Tune In with us from Kansas City as he gets ready to go and be a part of those next couple of games at 6 and also 8:30. Can't wait to see how that works out. Now, coming up, Joey Maguire with a nugget about Micah Hudson, the former Lake Belton High star, was committed, high-level 5-star commit to Tech, and his story back and forth, and really what he was last year or wasn't. And then we will look at Bruce Feldman's top 25 coaches in America list in college football and discuss that too. This is 365 Sports. Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat, Loop 340 and east of 84 in Waco. Ted Teague just sent this to me like in the last 20 minutes. You never know what is on the pre-owned lot. And I didn't know when I went summer of 2020 looking for a new car, the Tahoe I had that I drove basically into the ground over 400,000 miles. It finally said, I can't do this anymore, and neither could my checkbook. So I went to Alan Samuels, and I looked around the pre-owned lot. I think maybe I will buy something brand new. And then I saw the front of the Ford Explorer and the price tag on it, and I'm like, okay, wait a minute. It's lower than I thought, and it's a good-looking car. And I have driven that now for 5.5 years, almost 6. Right now, on the pre-owned lot at Alan Samuels in Waco, a 2023, a beautiful 2023 Volvo ZC60. Dark gray with gorgeous white over black leather interior, one owner, immaculate inside and out, panoramic sunroof, all-wheel drive, luxury leather seating, and, of course, Volvo's legendary safety technology. You can drive it home right now. Today, go to the lot, look at it, drive it, whatever you want, $32,990 plus tax, title, and license. Always some fun, sexy, good-looking deals on the lot at Alan Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat. That is available right now. 2023 Volvo XC60 for $32,990. Ask for Ted Teague or David Gray, Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco.
Join the celebration. It's 27 years for Richard Car Motors, and we're celebrating with big anniversary savings. Encore GX offers stylish design, a quiet, refined ride, advanced safety, and a premium interior. Right now, during Richard Car's 27th anniversary sale, save $5,000 on any 2026 Buick Encore GX in stock. Thank you, Central Texas, for 27 years. Log on, call, or come by today to find big anniversary savings now.
At Richard Car, we give you more.
With over 25 years of excellence in IT, Carrion Solutions is your trusted technology partner. From managed IT services to cutting-edge cybersecurity, our expert team delivers tailored solutions that drive success. Our portfolio includes products such as Veeam, Bitdefender, Microsoft, Cisco, and Fortinet. Call David Carrion and his team of experts. Call 888-522-2221 or visit us at carrionsolutions.com.
Bold are the adventurous. Determined are the leaders. Faithful are the healers. At Baylor, you'll find your calling, your people, and your purpose. Dare to be you, indeed.
Pepperoni Magnifico. Pepperoni Magnifico. Marco's Pepperoni Magnifico. Classic and crispy cut pepperoni, 3 melty cheeses, all on our fresh made dough. And starting at just $12.99 for a large, it's no wonder Marco's was named America's favorite pizza chain.
I pitched in the major leagues for 24 years. And let me tell you, I can feel it in my joints. Shoulders, elbows, and knees. Trust me, pain doesn't retire when you do. I tried everything to get rid of the pain. Nothing worked until QC Kinetics.
Baseball legend Roger Clemens and other patients are getting lasting relief with QC Kinetics regenerative treatments. No surgery.
I trust QC Kinetics. You should too. Let's commit to getting rid of all the pain.
Schedule your free consultation today. QC Kinetics. Better starts here.
This is 365 Sports.
.365 Sports, David Smoak with Paul Catalina and Craig Smoak and you. We appreciate your time when you spend with us, the access with us on 365 Sports every afternoon at 3 o'clock, your TFNB, your Bank for Life studio. And then we had this, just 2 days ago, we had Joey Maguire join us. Micah Hudson, somebody that we covered because he's from one of the local high schools at Lake Belton, one of the newer schools, hell of a player, committed to Tech, then left Tech, went to A&M, bounced around, and then he's back at Tech. Listen to Joey Maguire on the journey of a young man they need and apparently is trying to step up because of the wide receiver room.
Micah's a really good story. I didn't tell it last year, and I can say it now, but what people don't understand is Micah Hudson walked on last year. He was not on scholarship. We just put him back on scholarship in January. He wore number 14. I was not going to give him number 1. You know, it was he would have to earn it back. Like Micah did a lot of things to be back at Texas Tech because, you know, he knew that this is where he should have been and stayed, and it's going to pay off. I mean, you know, it's one of those deals. He's running with the ones. That is the one thing I think that we as a team are really deep, and so you're going to see, I think, a bigger rotation at receiver than what we have in the past. Without a doubt, because we are deeper in that room. And our tight end room is really good, so you're going to see tight ends on the field, which we've done that since I've been here. But Micah's really done a phenomenal job of buying into everything that Coach Juice and Max asking him to do, and it's paying off.
All right, there he is, Joey Maguire on Micah Hudson, 5-star to walk on. And not even the number. And now he is stepping up. They need him to at the wide receiver position.
Yeah, I just found that of interest a couple of days ago, seeing that clip. Kind of forgot about Micah Hudson a little bit. Last time really recall thinking about him too much was when he returned to Texas Tech after he maybe or maybe didn't beat up Marcel Reed. It just depends on what corner of the internet you're reading any given day. But there's Tech narratives that he beat up Marcel Reed and got his ticket back to Lubbock, and then there's A&M fans that I don't know what to make of that entire thing, other than clearly something happened, and in general, A&M or not, something happened to to Micah Hudson to lead him onto this path where, 2-3 years ago, he's this 5-star no-doubter, every school in the country pursuing him, and 2 years later, he's done all of nothing at the college football level. And so it does feel like a make-or-break time for him if you're going to keep playing the hype train at all, because if all of a sudden we're 3 years removed, I mean, at what point do you just go, okay, I don't think he's going to amount to what we hoped he was going to amount to, especially when expectations were so large. Big 5-star rare signee, which is not as rare for Texas Tech these days, but when he signed, that was a massive deal for them, like historic. And so, they are going to be losing some guys this year, the Caleb Douglases of the world, but they still got Coy Aiken and those types of players. But to hear that Micah Hudson's running with the ones, that's refreshing and music to, I think, probably a lot of Tech fans' ears. And the talent, I don't think, went anywhere. The things that had people rating him as a 5-star coming out of Lake Belton to begin with, I don't think those just disappeared. I think he clearly had a lot going on in his personal life. What that is, I have no idea, other than I just heard it referred to on multitude of occasions of just these vague things going on in his life. And I'm sure if I had to gun to my head, come up with what those could be, I'm sure some element of it had to do with all the money that was being thrown his way and just the exposure and the expectations and all of these things for a 18-year-old guy who maybe wasn't as well equipped as some of his other peers to handle all of that right away. And so now, a couple of years removed from that, certainly the hype's died down a bit, except for in Lubbock, where I think you still hope that he'll reach that ceiling. But, it's good to hear there's some nice positive reviews, and I do think that Joey is great at the relationship part of the coaching job and maybe the best in the country, or certainly one of the best in the country at that. And I do agree with him when he says that Micah should have never left there to begin with. And I don't even know all the details, but just hearing him say that, I feel like, that sounds like it was probably factual. So he's back where he belongs, and he's got people around him that care about him and want him to do well. And it's on you now, young man. I mean, it sounds like you're making some moves that are progress, but now it's up to you to go actually do it out on the field.
They had Kenny Johnson transferred in from Pitt, who put up pretty good numbers.
Really good pickup.
Yeah, a really good pickup. Aiken, you mentioned him, who just seems to make big plays, and Micah Hudson has the ability to be an alpha. And then there's some other freshmen that didn't play quite a bit, in fact, much at all last year on the depth chart as well, from Gentry to Deaver to Stone and others. They all had 1, 2, 3, 4 catches, but they have a room that Joey feels very good about, and they did lose some studs, no question.
Yeah, Caleb Douglas was a really good player for them. Reggie Virgil, a good player for them as well. But getting Coy Aiken back, and then Terrence Carter, their big-time tight end, decides to come back. And, I mean, he could have – I don't know what his draft grade was, but I assume he probably could have gone and made a little scratch in the NFL. But him deciding to come back, I mean, you lump that in. And I think you also have to lump the running backs in, because the running backs caught a lot of balls last year, and that's an area
especially Jacoby Williams.
Yeah, I mean, the running backs were amongst their top handful of pass catchers last year, so I think that'll be a part of the mix as well. So whether it's the wide receiver spot with a known surefire thing like a Coy Aiken, or guys that you've brought in, Terrence Carter at tight end among others, your running backs, Jacoby Williams and Cam Dickey and those guys, I mean, there's going to be no shortage of people for Brendan Sorsby to get the ball to, and we're just brushing on like the knowns, much less, the other guys that aren't as highly rated or are ready to explode and make their mark as well.
For Micah Hudson and Tech fans, look, let him catch a pass, and then let him catch another pass. And let him score his first, let him score a touchdown and do those things. Let it build. I know that, there's a lot of, when you have a guy who is a 5-star player who's gone through all the personal things that he's gone through, there can be a temptation to hear, he's running with the ones. That means he's finally, broken out of the cocoon and he's developed. Let it happen. Like Joey said, they are very deep at that position. They feel confident at it. I'm excited to see him actually play meaningful snaps in a game if he does manage to hang through spring with the ones and through fall with the ones, and he runs out there game one with the ones. I'm fascinated to see it. I can't wait to see it.
One thing I do know about him, and this is Brian Cope, who's no longer at Lake Belton, he moved to a different job, is that when I talked to him to just more than anything else, like separate what the speculation or rumors or innuendos and never once did Brian. I think he had Micah had a lot of people around him telling him what to do, which that happens now when you start to make really good money and get a lot of attention. But he was able to kind of get through all that, and in the end, he ended back where he wanted to be in the first place.
And I think he was a product as well of like the perfect storm of suddenly being in a position where all of the guys who are similar to him were not in the position of transfer portal, NIL, constant tampering, where his recruitment was probably just a disaster area as far as the number of people that were trying to contact him and talk to him and pulling him in every direction and telling him things and promising him this. And so eventually you do have to sign with somebody, and you do, but then that doesn't work out for whatever reasons, and you go somewhere else and that doesn't work out for whatever reasons, and now you're back. And now all of that noise has gone away. Like, you're locked into a spot, and hopefully you can just go play football rather than worrying about having to feed your entire family or buy somebody a house or just have like your cousin or your best friend who are asking you for money, because now we not only know you're a great football player, but now we know you got money too because of the era that we're in. And so that's can be very challenging. Not everybody's equipped and ready to do that right away.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of at least what it was. Now, when you talk to Brian Cope, we're not on the air right now. Just did he beat up Marcel Reed? Did Brian tell you if he beat up Marcel Reed or not? I'm just kidding.
I did not. All I said, no, I know what you're saying. All I asked Brian was, did he do something where they wanted him to leave? He said, man, it's just so much misinformation out there. He's glad to be back in Lubbock.
Well, also, look, to your point, Craig.
No, you know who beat up Marcel Reed? UT's defense in the second half
sure.
and in Miami.
Absolutely.
Sorry.
And I don't know if the rumor was actually beat up. It was like swung on or whatever, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't
Altercation.
matter. Yeah, there's an altercation.
Yeah. But there are, what's weird? Belton, Texas, people may not realize this, but there are a solid number of NFL players that have come out of there.
Logan Hall just this past week
signed with the
Durham Smythe just signed with a new team. They've had 4 or 5 guys over the years, very recently that made it to the NFL, but none of those guys. Durham Smythe went to Notre Dame, and that was like a big deal, but he was a tight end, and so it was one of those things where you're like, oh, well, look, he's this big athletic tight end, and Notre Dame got him, but it wasn't the fanfare that Micah Hudson. So in Belton, Texas, even though they've had a great many guys play really high-level college football, none of them were chased like Micah Hudson, where coaches came into Central Texas, and he was the number one stop on the tour, and everywhere else they went was just because they were here and able to get to those prospects.
And especially skilled people. Jamarian Carlton is going to UT, and they've had that, but not many skill guys.
Logan Hall's a defensive lineman.
Yep. From Belton High.
Yeah, that can be kind of boring, for the recruitniks out there. But for someone like Micah Hudson, that's a 5-star wide receiver that's all world, man, like it was. Actually the last time that I saw Matt Rule was when he was in town, pretty much to they can't really tell us that, but pretty much, hey, I asked where you going tomorrow. He's like, well, we're going to start out in Belton. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, and that's a brand new school, or was at the time. So he was not only the past of Belton High, but now all of a sudden he's the first guy from this brand new school that suddenly got a focus on it. So yeah, he was kind of leading the way for I think a lot of people, and probably again getting pulled in a lot of directions, but I saw that clip earlier this week. I mean, spring ball's it's on our radar, but there's not necessarily a lot of things to just discuss outside of the normal, like, let's take a preview look at this or that or the other. But that was something where I was like, okay, that's interesting. I think we could talk about that, especially having watched Micah and knowing him a little bit from just being from this area. And I'm glad to hear that. I hope that it works out for him and he's not just some guy we talk about being the best that never was type of a guy when all is said and done. And if he turns out to be what people thought he was or is, then, I mean, that's going to be a hell of a combination with him and Brendan Sorsby, I would think.
Yeah, Sorsby brought him up in an interview earlier this week without being prompted, and that was something I noticed as well. Now, Bruce Feldman, theathletic.com, who does some big pieces. He does great features, columns, etc. He ranked the top 25 coaches in college football. I have the list up. Paul, is this Paul you?
Actually, this was Rez.
All right, Rez and Logan and Andrew with us today in the studio. So the top 25 coaches. Now, we could look at that list and just like lose our mind with a lot of it. Those are the top 25. Signetti, and the numbers in parentheses is where they were at the end of the 24 season. And so if you, for example, Signetti was 11th, and now he's number 1. Those are the lists. Let's go through the top 5 first. Signetti, Smart, Day, Lanning, and DeBoer. I was surprised that DeBoer was at 5. I thought that was a little bit a scooch too high.
I agree. I think that there are 2 coaches. I'm going to say 2 coaches in that next group of 5 that should be above him.
Who?
I think it would be Marcus Freeman and Mario Cristobal.
Okay.
Although I do know, I know how Bruce kind of ranks these things. He's not going to shoot Mario Cristobal up from nowhere to 5. Kurt Signetti was 11th to 1. That's a big one. But Mario Cristobal was unranked last year, and he went.
I think a lot of it with Cristobal was the management of the game, and he kind of was able to get that.
He went viral for doing dumb
stuff.
stuff.
And they kind of checked. They did he managed the game and also, of course, a great run.
And he got rid of his buddy hire at defensive coordinator.
Yeah.
That was the other thing. Those 2 things that were keeping them back. He made those adjustments. Not every game. Here's the other thing they were much more talented this year all across the board, so that in the times where Mario Cristobal got a little bit, I'm going to try to do this at the end of the game when I don't need to, they were good enough to overcome it. They're outside of that Georgia Tech game, which made no sense at all. Most of Mario Cristobal's late game mistakes are just kind of being a little too aggressive, and then the team not being good enough to make up for that. That was taken care of.
Every coach on that list has made a decision late in the game in which they probably panicked, overmodulated, or hyperventilated, and they learned from it.
And Kalen DeBoer is one of those who does that kind of a lot because he's very aggressive.
Yeah, I mean, this is something that we can take apart in a lot of different ways, but as far as the top names go, I think the top 3 are absolutely rock solid. And then, even Dan Lanning there at 4. I do think that when you get to DeBoer at 5, that's where I go, I don't think I would have him at 5 right now. I mean, they made the playoff a year ago by the hair on their chinny chin and nearly made it 2 years in a row of not making the playoff. I think the jury's still very much out on Alabama and what this all looks like, and I think this is the year. And we started to see this a little bit last year, but the shine wears off, the Saban shine, where you go, we can't just say, oh, well, it's Alabama. Every game, oh, well, it's Alabama. And we could do that for 10-plus years with Nick Saban. And it didn't always work. Sometimes Georgia beat them or whatever, but they were always in the mix. And they're going to still be in the mix, but I think it's much more of a question mark now than ever before.
And look, I'm not trying to knock Nick Saban and say that he couldn't coach. He would still be in that top 5 in any iteration of this as he was still coaching. But even for him, it would be harder. And that's one of the reasons he left, because it had gotten harder. And it's just how much do I have to accomplish that now I have to change all these rules? Look, there's a reason he's showing up in Washington begging to change the rules, and that not coaching anymore because he didn't like the way it was headed. So he took that opportunity to retire because there were no worlds left to conquer. But Kalen DeBoer,
he did win 11 games, but then he lost 4.
Yeah, that's exactly.
No, he's a good coach. I just think the jury's still out. I think as far as putting him as, he's the surefire 5th best coach in the country, I think there's a debate on that. And so I wouldn't have him too much lower than that. I wouldn't have a problem if he was at 7 or something, but I think at 5, I think you can make an argument of, okay, maybe it should be Marcus Freeman, or maybe there's somebody else you want to throw into that mix.
Sarkisian was 3rd. Last year, still successful, but they just didn't finish, and they had that shaky start, and it was just hard for them to overcome that. And he dropped from 3 to number 6.
The thing about Kalen DeBoer there at 5, though, is there is no necessarily surefire thing behind him.
I was going to say that. Yeah. You could say DeBoer shouldn't be at 5. That's fine. You can have that opinion, even if I have the opinion. But who am I going to replace him with? And that is where you go,
Freeman, and then I do think Cristobal, given what they've accomplished, is a little bit low. I think you maybe bump him up a spot or 2 because he won at Oregon, even though he was there very briefly, but he turned them around, and then he goes to Miami and look, they didn't win the ACC, but they played for the national title when all was said and done.
They didn't win the ACC because the ACC's tiebreaker.
The tiebreaker rules are stupid.
Yeah, that's right.
It's not they would have. Look, if you put Miami in that title game, they would have won the title game more than likely.
Right? Yeah.
But because of some weird tiebreaker that once again the commissioners and the people who created it were like, we didn't see the scenario happening. Well, that's why you have to, like, when you're in the room and you say, well, that's never going to happen, put it in the rules because it's going to happen.
All right. You have others. But I was surprised I saw Campbell at 11. He dropped a couple of notches.
I'm actually more surprised he was at 9 to begin with.
Yeah, well.
when he was at Iowa State last year.
Guess where? Okay, Lance Leipold, and we're not going to just bet. Lance Leipold's 20. We love him a ton. He was 7th, and I believe the year before that, Feldman said he was like 2nd on this list. So he's kind of taken a dive after the last couple of 5 and 7 years.
Look, that's gonna happen. I do think, like, to me, Marcus Freeman has been the most consistent coach at Notre Dame since Lou Holtz. Honestly, like, even like Brian Kelly had gotten him back to being consistent, but even he had his wild swings there, especially at the beginning. So that's why I think he should be higher. You get down to that, like James Franklin at 12. Right now, it's still a little bit higher than I would have put him, but I think he's going to roll into Virginia Tech, and they're going to be an efficient machine. Will they win the ACC? I don't know. Maybe that's his thing. Maybe he just can't get them over the hump, but we'll see.
All right. Clark Lee is somebody who made a big jump at Vanderbilt from unranked to number 15. I was surprised not to see 2 guys on this list, but Lee had a big year with Vanderbilt. Diego Pavia, they'd have life without him. I was surprised not to see Georgia Tech head coach on this list after what they've been able to do. Brent Key from Georgia Tech, with now post-Haynes King, but I still think that he's going to have Georgia Tech in the mix.
Well, and I was surprised to see Lance Leipold still on after a 5-7 season, but he's still a really good coach. I personally would put Brent Key on the list over Brett Bielema. That doesn't mean I think
Bielema's done a really
good job. But I would put Brent Key, like, if it was right there.
I saw Jeff Monken at 3, and first thing I thought about was Brian Newberry at Navy with what he's also been able to do. Craig, any more from you? And we could talk like this for hours.
Yeah, I think I've run into a bit of an issue. This list differs from what's on the website and what I'm reading on The Athletic, trying to follow along here. Because, for example, Lane Kiffin's at 15 on the thing from yesterday.
I literally took the article, talked to Bruce about it, copied and pasted his numbers, and put them up there on the list. But okay, all right.
Yeah, no, I was just trying to go and follow along with it, and it doesn't match up exactly. So I was just trying to compare there, but because like what made me think that was Leipold, and so I went to go look at what the description for Leipold was, and on the list I'm looking at, he's not in the rankings at all.
Here's what happened. There's 2 lists, Stuart Mandel, and then there's Bruce Feldman. This is Stuart Mandel's list.
Okay, well, there you go.
Well, okay,
yeah.
Thanks for bringing it up.
Okay, well.
Oh, yeah, you have Stuart Mandel here, but you put Bruce Feldman on base.
Yeah, that's okay. That's fine. But so forget about who did it. But you're right. I should not say it's Feldman. It was Stuart Mandel. But here's the 25 from Stuart Mandel.
Okay, so yeah, I'm glad I noticed that, because I'm sure somebody else, if my stupid self notices it, then I'm sure somebody else would as well. So yes, this is Stuart Mandel's list, not Bruce Feldman's. Yeah, I think the jury's still very much out on a lot of these guys. I mean, Matt Campbell still gets a lot of respect, but I think now he's in a spotlight where it's like, we're really going to see how good of a coach you are, because I think you were given bonus points, and rightfully so, for doing more with less. But I also think that now you don't have that. You have as much as most others. And so now there are no like, oh, well, he's only in Ames and he's only got this or that. It's like, now we're going to see you've got all the weaponry. You've got the backing. Not that you didn't have a lot of that in Ames, Iowa, but now you've got like the prestige and the brand, and you're in the Big Ten, and ESPN loves you, and all these things. So there's no more, well, we'll just give it a try, and little old Iowa State, you know.
There might still be a little asterisk for the first year. But
okay,
not like
well, for the first year, sure. But after that, it's like, buddy, you got to go out there and coach your ass off and really show people. And I'm very interested to see Matt Campbell, where he's not in the role of underdog all of the time. And he may not have as much all the time as Michigan or Ohio State, but he's going to typically have as much as pretty much anybody. And he won't be lacking in being able to go acquire talent or hold on to guys, you know. So I'm very intrigued by that spot for him.
Michigan and Ohio State are always going to be 1-2 in the Big Ten. Like, I mean, as far as like who are the big daddies as far as money goes, you know, all the
they're Texas OU of what used to be the Big 12.
Exactly.
When it comes
so
to
that's what they are. But Penn State and is always going to be in the top 5 of that when it comes to influence. You know, like
the top 5 where
of the Big Ten when it comes to influence.
Yeah,
you know, so they're never going to drop out of that part of it.
Yeah,
what success on the field or not, they're still going to be one of the more influential programs. You know, Oregon's one of the most influential programs right now. USC and Washington and all that, I think will rotate through that. You know, those groups, but like. Of the teams I can promise you will always be relevant in the Big Ten, at least to the discussion and how they build their big football program, is going to be Penn State. So he doesn't have the, you know, small business anymore. He's with a big company at Penn State. What I'm interested to see is how do you change maybe some of your rhetoric, because he got a lot of heat at Iowa State that year where he was like, look, we're not – you know,
we're here for championships.
We're not here for championships. We're going to develop young men and all that stuff. And that, like, well, can be very true. You cannot say that.
No, that would not work.
Happy Valley will not be smiling when you say that.
I would imagine they asked him that question in the interview process of like, hey, do you still believe that championships don't matter and it's all about just pure development or not? So
because ask James Franklin that question.
Exactly.
Right, exactly.
The reason he got this job is because the other guy didn't do that.
Yeah, I think James Franklin developed really well. He didn't win championships. That was the problem. But
one other note, I want to go back. Sarkisian is 13th on Feldman's, much lower than what he is on Stuart Mandel's. He went from 4 to 13.
Yeah, he's 6 in the list we're actually trying to talk about, as opposed to 13, I think, in the other list.
Let's talk about the list we actually are talking about, which is the one on the screen.
So Sark at 6 drops 3 spots from Mandel's rankings last year. I think that's pretty fair. When I was looking at this last night, I know I was actually interested to see people's opinions that were like really just kind of thinking this out, because it's easy to go, well, I'm a Michigan fan. Kyle Whittingham should be higher because this, that, or the other. I was curious about just the average college football fan, because I think when you drill down into this, it's like, maybe we're talking shifting 1-2 spots, which is really nothing in the big picture. Like the big arguments about who's number 1, 2, or 3 or whatever. But I think when you get into like 6 through 10 or 6 through 12, it's pretty much all the same types of guys. They're all very successful but haven't won a national championship. They've maybe played for it, or they're in a spot where now you expect them to, like a Kyle Whittingham. But yeah, Cristobal, Matt Campbell, now you expect him to. Whittingham, now you have more of an expectation for him to, because certainly Michigan does. Lane Kiffin, really good but hasn't risen to the mountaintop. Marcus Freeman, same thing. Steve Sarkisian, same thing. Kalen DeBoer, same thing. So yeah, once you get past the Kirbys and the Days and now a Kurt Cignetti, I think a lot of these guys, you could maneuver them around and you're not off by too much ultimately. I think when you get to the latter half of it, though, and you start wondering, where's Kalani Sitake? Where is Lance Leipold if he's on your list? Or where are those guys? That's a much greater debate, because they're bigger wild cards given where they are.
Let's put the list back up again and focus on the school or the coaches from the Big 12. Campbell, no longer. He's gone. Whittingham, no longer, but he was. So let's go to
But do you get what I'm saying, though, about like the 4 through
I think
12,
I think after
13?
And I'm thinking Lanning's got a, he's a popular guy, he's a fiery guy, he's winning, but they need some skins on the wall.
Well, he's in the same position Ryan Day was, I think, a couple years ago, where it's you're winning a lot, but you got to win some. You're winning a lot of games,
to James Franklin.
But you've got to win something.
Kalani Sitake at 13, Fritz 16, Leipold at 20, and that's it. And those are the only 3 schools in the Big 12 with coaches who are on the list. And I know we can probably look at 3 or 4 that at least maybe should be involved.
Well, the Big 12 also had a big spring cleaning, so to speak, this year when it came to coaching turnover. The one guy who's not on this list, who I think totally deserves to be at all, is Kenny Dillingham. Now, he was on the just missed here, but
he was on Feldman's list, but not this one. How about the debate? James Blanchard, the director of football or general manager at Texas Tech, tweeted Feldman's story and blasted.
Mandel's.
No, it was.
He actually tweeted Feldman, I believe.
Yeah,
so I guess Joey wasn't on either
he
list.
And blasted the story and said, when is he going to get some blank respect? And actually, you got to give Bruce a great amount of credit. He tweeted back at James Blanchard that he was in the conversation, but that got him fired up.
I would say the reason that Joey Maguire isn't on this list, what all these other guys have that Joey does not quite have, is more than one season of sustained success. Like last year was the first really big year for Joey Maguire. They've been good but not great. But if you look at, in their whole careers, like not just Lance Leipold at Kansas for the time he's been there, but I mean he's a very accomplished head coach overall. John Sumrall, first year at Florida, but very accomplished head coach in the places he's been. Jeff Monken's had multiple winning seasons
Clark Lee
at Auburn. Yeah, Clark, well, you know what? Like, so he maybe needs to hold to that. And part of that might be a little bit of, oh man, Vanderbilt was so good and Pavia and all that stuff, but yeah, so if Clark Lee's on the list, then maybe by those standards, Joey should be.
I think maybe Feldman and Mandel need to separate the release of their list a little bit because, you did have Blanchard tagging one but not the other, and now, it's just very kind of confusing. But I think James had a pretty valid point given that Tech just won the Big 12. I can understand, though, Feldman, who was saying in response something along the lines of how that was a big debate and that was a hard one to call. I do think that Joey's got to be at like 26 or 27 at worst on here. Bielema's just done it longer. Rhett Lashley's made a playoff, so I think they're pretty much all equal there. So you could definitely make a case for Joey. I think as far as the Big 12 guys go, Satake, I totally get that. He's been knocking on the door of the playoff, and you could argue has been the most disrespected program when it comes to the college football playoff the last 2 years as far as the complete lack of effort by the committee to give them any credit whatsoever.
You're right about that. Joey beat him straight up twice last year.
I'm not arguing him or Joey.
No, okay.
I'm just talking about him being on the list and where he is.
Okay.
I think Kalani deserves to be on this list, and I think middle of the pack, given what they have and have not accomplished, is fair compared to the guys that are all in front of him. 13's totally fine, and it's a nice big jump as you see from last year. I think Willie Fritz, that's a great call. He absolutely deserves to be on this list. The dude just wins, kind of a la Signetti, just not quite to that level yet, obviously. But Fritz has done a great job with Houston in a short amount of time, and they're one of those teams that's expected to contend again next year and feel great about their team. So, I think that's a valid jump up for him. I think Leipold at this point needs to make a move this year. He doesn't really deserve to be on this list anymore. I know he's a friend of the program, as a lot of these guys are, but Kansas has been on a downward spiral, not the high-flying 2 years ago like Jalen Daniels, and we're going to be great, and we're turning it around. Like that has really dissipated the last couple of years. So I think Leipold is at risk of clearly he fell double-digit spots this year. I think he falls right out if they don't make a big move next year. And then, Joey, can make a great case Joey should be where Leipold is and switch those spots. Beyond that, Kenny Dillingham, I think his inclusion would have made a lot of sense, but
he's 21st in Feldman's, but just on the outside, not in Stuart Mandel.
But I can see looking at these names where you give a couple of guys enough, just a little bit more credit to where Dillingham gets bumped. But I would think that, Dillingham's got to be right outside of the top 25. And then Dion should obviously be number one, but
Stop.
I'm sorry. I couldn't help myself.
Leipold dropped out of Feldman's list. Dion dropped out of Feldman's list.
Okay.
He was up there. Rich Rod at West Virginia dropped out of the list from where he was before when he was at where was Rich Rod? Damn.
Rich Rod's at Jacksonville
State. Kleiman retired, so he evaporates from the list.
He took himself off the list,
Just missed in Feldman's list, and I don't think he's in Mandel's, is Sonny Dykes at TCU.
Yeah, I think the TCU situation is one where, the playoff thing was great, but now you have kind of been quiet the last couple of years. You've been steady, but you've just been kind of quiet. So I do think they've got to sort of rev that back up and bring some more attention back to the program to get him back into the top 25 conversation. But I don't think he should be at like 60-something. He should be 30s somewhere, given that they've been pretty steady and that you did make a CFP appearance not that long ago.
By the way, someone in the chat saying that this is an off-season list, it's for fodder. You're right, absolutely. And we'll
that's
have
what we're treating it as.
That's exactly what we're treating it as.
We are foddering.
But,
we're foddering all over it.
We are foddering it. And General Ursus, Tennessee fan, not happy with Clark Lee being ahead of Josh Heupel. And I mentioned
it feels almost intentional by Stewart there.
Yeah, it feels
probably was.
Yeah,
actually.
like just to see how
General Ursus is passionate with the Vols, but I said maybe 45-24 last year or whatever the score would had something to do with it. Clark Lee's had 2 winning seasons in a row at Vanderbilt, and he was General Ursus, I think, was hacked by Kim Coulter when anything is said negative about Texas Tech with his response.
You know what? I did a short this week where Andrew had me put the quarterbacks in the Big 12 and the SEC into tiers. S was the highest one, like star.
You made him start crying.
So no. So I learned this very early. I should have known it, but I mean, it was kind of a rapid fire thing. So I had, because I'm a huge Bear Bachmeier fan, I put Bear Bachmeier on the S tier, and I put Devin Dampier the tier below him. And going back, I probably should have had them on the same tier or flipped. But he's asking me these questions like rapid fire, and so I just said it. And I'm a big fan of both guys. But the most comments I got on it, or direct messages, were from Utah fans going like, "Are you kidding me, Paul? Are you absolutely kidding me?" And when you have that rivalry where you even just put them one spot ahead, like that, if I had put Bear Bachmeier on the top and Devin Dampier on the just hated on him and said he's an F, like it probably would have hurt less because they would have seen that as intentional than the one spot ahead. Like, that's the thing that really stings. It's salt in the wound.
You're going to separate those two. You better bring some shields.
I mean, I think the thing about Heupel, though, is very valid. I mean, the dude's, like, at worst won 8 games a year ago, and so he's being punished for going only 8-5 after you had your quarterback completely ripped out from underneath you right before the season started, right? Like, I mean, is that not like,
it's a
you
setback.
still won 8 games
Yep.
with going to get Joey Aguilar the very last minute. So I think that's valid. I mean, Clark Lee's a great story. I think that it's probably being treated too far as swinging the other way with the praise, because he was being praised for just doing a pretty good job. And now you got a guy who's like contending for the Heisman, and you're in the mix, and you're playing teams toe-to-toe and all that.
They got a 5-star quarterback commit.
They deserve credit for all that. But, yeah, Heupel's been far more steady, so I can definitely see where, yeah, he's suddenly getting knocked a little bit for only going 8-5, which I understand the standard at Tennessee is very, very high. But the dude's won double-digit games a couple times in the last handful of years, and he was throwing a really big curveball last year. So I can understand that sentiment. But both have done a great job, and Clark Lee's a great story. So, yeah, I mean, that's the beauty about these lists, is that's the entire purpose of them, at least socially, is to go throw it out and just, take the pin out of the grenade, go throw it in the room and close the door behind you, and then come back in a few minutes and see what it looks like. And that's basically what you do when you post one of these lists. And a lot of that is I like them when they aren't trying to be intentionally, though, controversial. When you do see those that are pretty obviously putting a BYU guy in front of a Utah guy just to get the reaction of it, not because they really feel that way,
It was totally unintentional. I mean, it wasn't.
I'm not talking about you specifically.
I know you hate Utah.
But it's like a guy putting Arch Manning to like 12th out of the best quarterbacks next year. You don't believe that. You just want to get the Texas fan reaction to that.
By the way, on Heupel, real quick, he won 11 and he won 10 in his time at Tennessee. Of course, we know Jeremy Pruitt was a disaster. The last time they'd won 10 was 2007 in a season, 10 games in a season.
The playoff 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Like, they were in the playoff, and then their quarterback bails to UCLA, and they have to go scramble, and they made out and did okay for themselves.
Nico Iamaleava.
He's back, so you better learn it.
You can say every single thing you want to about this era and how ridiculous it is with college football. But playing within the expectations of like a reasonable decision. Josh Heupel's, going through spring practice. He's got Nico Iamaleava. There's his quarterback. The Tennessee boosters have not only paid Nico so much money it'll make your head spin, they have gone to federal court to defend what they did in bringing him in. So there's a lot. There was a lot of hay in the barn when it came to Nico Iamaleava, and then all of a sudden he just decides and says hey, the better chance of me to get into the NFL is to go to UCLA. And it's understandable for Tennessee to be like, what the F is happening right now? This doesn't make sense that it's happening all the way after spring is done. We've got the spring game in 3 days, and he's now jumping in the portal. None of this makes sense. And they were still able to actually go get the quarterback from UCLA because, look, he might have also had an offer that would have been something similar. So they got him. They won 8 games. They started late. Like, I know Tennessee fans might be mad at Heupel this year, but God, they had a raw deal in a weird time.
Well, I mean, they're also one of the most proud fan bases and one of the highest standards of excellence of any program in the country. So they're at a point where, yes, while we are crediting Josh Heupel for, I think, being better than Clark Lee, I think go look at head-to-heads as well. But there still is the fact that he hasn't played for a national title, and that's what's been so missing from Tennessee, such a proud program. So, I mean, Heupel's done a good job of stabilizing, but he does now, like, they do need to reach a higher level because you've been looking around for far too long at Georgia and Alabama and everybody else having all their fun, and you've been good at times to pretty good, but you're not where Tennessee football should be in the minds of Tennessee football fans. And so let's see a little bit more stability this year, safe to say, at least – so far, it's only March, so knock on wood there. But, yeah, I would flip him and Lee. And then as far as the rest of it goes, I think we kind of touched on the highlights of it. But it's fun to look at lists like that when they're not trying to be intentionally controversial. Again, like you take something off of Twitter sometimes, and it's like, brother, you don't have Kirby Smart as the 8th best coach in college football behind. I mean, not that I've seen some that crazy, but I've seen some that are pretty close to being that crazy just to rile up somebody, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. There's other coaches that weren't on the list, like Eli Drinkwitz at Missouri, who's done a really good job. Jason Eck at New Mexico. Jim Mora, who did a great job at UConn. At Colorado State now, here's the just missed list. Dillingham was just off the list for Feldman. He was in the top 25 off the list for Stewart, and just off the list for Feldman. There's my guy, our guy, Brian Newberry. I saw where Monken was on there, but Brian Newberry has done a great job in taking over at Navy.
Yeah, so it's cool to look at, and it's obviously fun fodder, if you will. So we'll see where these guys are in 2027, Lord willing, and what they were accomplished this year and how much that list shakes up. But hats off to Curt Cignetti. That was a pretty massive jump, and deservedly so. I mean, we went from a time period where you were debating Urban Meyer or Nick Saban, and then you were debating Nick Saban versus Kirby Smart probably, and then we kind of entered this no Saban era of like, who is the guy? Well, it's going to be Kirby, or it's going to be I don't know. Who's it going to be? And we thought, okay, maybe Cristobal, maybe Lanning, whoever, and then here comes Curt Cignetti, and I think it makes for fun that, yes, Indiana can be such a wild card, but there is no surefire thing or guy or whatever anymore. There's just a lot of really good to excellent, and I think right now there's a lot of excellent coaches and a bunch of other guys who are close to that point, and that's a lot of fun.
There's guys that have to continue, otherwise this is, again, like the wind blows and leaves fall off the tree, etc.
Well, Lance Leipold has to win this year. He's not on this list next year.
No.
So,
for example.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned like somebody putting Kirby Smart 8th. That's one of those like Colin Cowherd arguments. Like, look, he hasn't won it since they went to the 12-team playoff and the NIL and all those things. He would that's one of those arguments where like no, they're still in the hunt every single year. They do not they cannot build a team like they built that beat TCU, but they can still build a damn good team.
Yeah, no, he that doesn't need to be forgotten, despite the way they were hammered by Georgia. A couple of other things. We have a lot of stories that we don't always get to. There's a couple of more. Like we had Joey a couple of days ago, but we had the interview too. Rez and Logan, if you wouldn't mind, do you have the Morgan Scalley, Utah? He is a Utah grad. That's his alma mater. He's now the head coach with Utah. He put, and his wife, a $2 million gift to his alma mater at Utah, and that was one of the notes from a couple of days ago that we have not yet been able to get to.
A very common thing for coaches to do now is to give some of that money back to NIL. I don't think it's an every year thing, but they are. I mean, there's been some, like Morgan Scalley did it before he even lost games and had to do it with a gun to his head. So really,
oh man, I'm under fire. Here's $2 million.
No, hey,
way
to go! Yeah, way to go! Look, I saw it at my alma mater last year. Like, how much of my money do you want to not fire me?
$8 million.
And it was like some ridiculous number that he gave and worked for less last year, which he was 5-7, so He wasn't an $8 million coach, that's for damn sure. But Morgan Scalley in the first year, hey, given that $2 million, good work, Morgan. Good work.
I think that's cool. I also think that that should raise alarms for Utah donors of I mean, maybe not. It's not necessarily a sign that you desperately need it or anything, but I don't think you want your coach having to chip in $2 million every year of his own money to help out with NIL. So hopefully this is a one-year type of a thing, and I think Utah's a strong fan base, and this is just to kind of push them a little farther in the right direction. So, an interesting move, and luckily for him, he makes millions, so he's still going to make millions despite giving away a couple of them. But, I don't think this is going to be an every-year deal by any means, nor should it be, nor should anybody hope that it is, because I think that would be a bit of a red flag at that point. But this year, nice first-year gesture and maybe a little bit of a kick in the pants.
All right, before I have to carry it over for the weekend, a couple of quick hits. You guys respond as you want. Louisiana Tech, they're in the Conference USA, but they're moving to the Sun Belt, and there's lawsuits about it. They released their schedule. They released the Sun Belt schedule, not the Conference USA schedule, but also there was a release of their schedule that included 20 games because it included both of their conferences. They were playing a full schedule.
Not surprising. Chaos.
But they
chaos.
retweeted the Sun Belt schedule.
Yeah, of course. Well,
that's what they're hoping for. We'll see how all that works out. But, I guess technically as of right now they've got two different schedules, and so we'll see where that goes, I guess, over the next few months.
I said this earlier in the week. You guys kind of not scoffed at me, but I said I'm just so damn tired of the daily grind of something
legal. Yeah, look at that
legal.
schedule right there.
Yeah, there it is.
I'm imagining it's probably CFBschedules.com or something.
CFB schedules, yeah.
That would be that's even more than if you play for the national title.
Yeah,
you know what?
Schedules, that's what
Here's
I
the thing. Louisiana Tech, I'm just going to jump on the side of Conference USA right now for crafts and giggles, and I think that you should play all these games. Yeah. One in the morning and one at night.
Or Thursday and then Saturday. Matt Brown, extra points we had on this week. I said this earlier this week. I mean this. I'm worn the hell out by the constant every day. We still cover it. One of the latest was the Nebraska players who are going to sue over the College Sports Commission and delays in NIL.
Am I perverse because I'm not?
No.
I enjoy it.
No, that's fine.
I don't know. It's intellectually stimulating to me.
Okay. I'm sure it is. To me, I get worn down with it because it's just me. I mean, that's good for you on that. I was trying to say, this is what Matt Brown said in a column. I don't care anymore. Tell me at the end of the story about some of these legals. And nobody, Paul, is more fired up about this than Matt Brown. I even think it's worn him down. I don't care because my entire sports writing career has been covering one serious professional roundtable commission after another. Can these professionals get it together and find a solution? And yet I know I'm asking for too much.
Yeah, no, it's true. When you start running things like a corporation, some corporations are great. Most corporations to me are really bad and shouldn't exist.
All right. One more thing. I don't know if we have this one or not, Rez and Logan, about men and women socializing. I thought I would try to end this on some sort of a humorous note before Paul's top five. Old School Eddie put this up on Twitter. Men socialize by insulting each other, but they don't really mean it. Women socialize by complimenting each other, and they don't really mean it either.
I think that holds true pretty well. Sometimes you have to, in the modern parlance of male friendships, I think you have to make an effort to compliment your buddy sometimes because you guys give each other shit so much. But yeah, I think that's pretty much true.
That's from Old School Eddie on Twitter. I just thought we could put that near the end. I also got a great update from Zach Barnett on his wife, Tracy. She's moving into Baylor Hospital in Dallas. 81 days since she's been home, and all of the prognosis and the momentum is very positive. Of course, a lot of you put money into their account and helping them to just do normal things every single day, whatever they can. So good news on Tracy, Zach Barnett's wife. The top five with Paul Catalina.
This is Paul Catalina's Top 5.
Welcome into Paul Catalina's Top 5, brought to you by Flag and Anthem.
That would be yesterday's.
FlagandAnthem.com. Use our promo code 365sports for a discount at checkout. Today we're talking ACC storylines as we head into March Madness. We're in the ACC tournament. They're not mentioned in this, but my alma mater, Florida State, won a game last night, playing Duke today. Not optimistic, but Luke Lauck's doing a great job. Number 5. Can SMU make it in? They are right there on Joe Lunardi's bubble list as one of the last 4 byes or one of the last 4 teams in. It kind of fluctuates throughout. They lost to Louisville the other day. That's going to be tough for them, but I do think they make it in with Andy Enfield there at head coach. I think they've got enough. I think there are enough bubble teams that aren't strong enough to get in, so they will get in. But with Miami, Ohio, losing today, that is a big thing because Miami, Ohio, according to Joe Lunardi, likely in as an 11 seed. That means the winner of their tournament will go in as well. So that league will get 2 bids. And where does that come out of? The ACC, the Big 12, the SEC? Whose bubble gets popped? SMU, watching that very nervously. Number 4 is Miami a sleeper. Jay Lucas has done a fantastic job in his first season as the Hurricanes coach. And let me tell you this. If you are trying to pick a bracket buster, somebody who's going to sneak up on people that may not have a super low number by their name, Miami likely an 8 or 9 seed. Miami is a team that could do it. They've been playing really well of late. Jay Lucas doing a great job, like I said before. They're coached well. They're athletic. They can make noise in this tournament. Number 3, it's Will Wade's first tourney at NC State. NC State just a couple years ago, under the previous regime, was a Final Four team. Then they weren't. Now Will Wade is there. He is one of the more controversial coaches in the country because of his tenure at LSU and the Adidas scandal and all those things that happened. But NC State kind of, to the front of the middle of the ACC pack this year. Good team, not great team. Let's see how they perform tournament-wise and see if he can build some momentum going forward. He's going to be talked about for major jobs all the time because people like Will Wade. They like that he's certainly willing to take chances and that he is not a BSer at all. So we'll see how NC State does and how that affects Will Wade and the Wolfpack moving forward. Number 2, how far can UNC go without Caleb Wilson? He's got a broken thumb. He had to have surgery on it, likely not to play in this entire tournament, and that is a bummer because since he's been out, you've seen the hole in the lineup that UNC has. Hubert Davis has a lot of work to do coaching them up and figuring out how to get over that loss of Caleb Wilson here at tournament time. They might as well have a turn up there because Caleb Wilson can't play. And it's unfortunate because he's one of the best players in the entire country, and not getting to see him play in the NCAA tournament is a bummer for all college basketball fans. Of course, unless you went to Duke, in which case you don't care about bad things happening to UNC. Speaking of Duke, let's go to number 1. Final Four bust for Duke. Yes, they've got some injuries, one of which is not going to play in the entire tournament, but they still have Cam Boozer. They still have John Shire. They still have really good depth on that team. They've been the best team in the country for most of the season. Do they not have some of their depth? Yes. But they are still Duke, and they are still lethal, and to think that an injury or two is going to slow them down might be a little naive. Now, are they way more vulnerable than they were just a week ago? Absolutely. But this has always been a Final Four or bust team for Duke this year with Cam Boozer at the center of it. Let's see how they do. That's going to do it for the top 5. Let's spin that wheel.
Is there a celebrity that you fantasize about meeting? Maybe someone not in sports. This is Andrew's pick is Conan.
Conan O'Brien. I would also like to meet Conan O'Brien very much.
Fantasize about it?
I don't fantasize about it. Right. I think that's maybe not the word.
That's a little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
Could turn that thing into a dark hole.
I mean, in my single days, I would list a whole bunch and not worry about going home to be like, oh, Megan Fox, huh? I don't want to deal with that. So
You just did.
I mean, this is a bit, so hopefully she'll get that. But I I think if it's just meeting someone that I really admire, I think answer stole mine. It's Conan O'Brien. I love Conan O'Brien.
All right.
I listen to his podcast pretty much every day.
All right, Craig?
Yeah, Conan would be cool. I've always been a big Conan fan. I would love to meet Bret Hart. I know that's not does it have to be A-list Hollywood celebrities or just in general?
Whoever
I
you
would
want.
love to meet Bret Hart, the pro wrestler whose figure you can kind of sort of maybe see.
Is it in the background? Yep, there it is.
Oh, it's behind Adrian Beltre.
Is that Hitman?
Yeah, it's Bret the Hitman Hart. As bitter as he is, as much as he still hates Bill Goldberg for ending his career, and as much as he bitches about a lot of things that he's been bitching about for like 20 straight years now, I still love the Hitman, and I would just love to talk wrestling with him, talk ball with him, if you will. So, yeah, I would say Bret Hart.
Everyone knows Denzel Washington. I'd just like to say hi to him, shake his hand, have a 5-minute conversation with him. That's one of those bucket list of never probably going to get him on, but I've been told we won't get other people on, and we have been able to swing and hit and make contact. But Denzel Washington would be mine.
Missed out the year he was at Cowboys training camp.
I know.
That would have been a great time.
By a day.
Just left.
A literal day.
We just left.
And
you know what thing about him is? He'd be cool. He'd be really good. If it doesn't walk up on him, but he seems to be just so cool.
We left the day before because it was a weekend and they had the day off, and we figured this is the perfect day for us to leave because we're not going to get anything anyway. And then, the next day I get up and I'm walking around living my life, and here's John Machota, whose Twitter photo is still to this day. It's him and Denzel. And I called Machota and was like, "Are you kidding me, dude?"
Yeah.
He's like, "Yeah, you should have been here." It's like, no.
I would love to get him on. All right. So that's the wheel. Good job, Andrew. Andrew wanted Conan, so did Paul. Craig said Bret Hart, and I said Denzel Washington. Now to the quizzes.
In honor of Friday the 13th and superstition, which NBA legend wore his college practice shorts under his pro game shorts for his entire career? Larry Bird, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, or Charles Barkley? I do not know this.
Well, I think it's Michael Jordan because Kobe Bryant didn't play college basketball.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, correct.
Where was Larry Bird's shorts going to be? Were they going to be like his whitey tighties
that's true.
at that point?
Yeah, but he's a gym rat. He might have done that.
Now, I don't know that it's MJ. I definitely remember hearing this, and it can't be Kobe because he didn't play college basketball.
Yeah.
So I think it's MJ, but I am not 100% positive. I've definitely heard this story before, though.
Yeah.
All right, we'll go with that. It is.
It is.
Well done, Craig.
Okay, now I remember, yes, it was MJ. Not just because it was correct, but yes, I vividly remember reading this way back in the day. Yeah.
Read that there, too.
MJ wore his 1982 UNC championship practice shorts under his Bulls uni for every single professional game to hide the extra layer comfortably. He requested longer, baggier shorts from the team. This personal good luck charm eventually revolutionized the entire league's fashion style throughout the 90s, and hell, if anything, we're probably going back in that direction about now, actually. I think we're back onto the 2000s are cool, is where we are. It's always 20 years, right?
Remember when the Fab Five had theirs down to the knees?
Those were the opposite of Tate Sandell at Oklahoma, where
he has knee pads.
He was trying to go the Daisy Dukes route, get shorter and shorter. The Fab Five was like, how long can we take till these are just we're tripping over ourselves? Yes.
Yeah.
I remember reading that about MJ back in the day, and so glad to get that one right. And on to the
How
next
much would
one.
you pay for those if they were available?
Nothing.
I wouldn't either.
You asked me a question when I'd have money to do stuff like that. Me now, nothing because I couldn't afford anything. On March 13th, 2012, which school pulled off the largest comeback in NCAA tournament history by rallying from a massive 25-point first-half deficit? Nevada, Louisville, Duke, or BYU?
All right, one of those teams doesn't belong on that list, but I'm not saying that Nevada hasn't had a good run at times, but that's the one that popped out at me.
I'm going to say, why would Nevada be on the list?
That's what I'm saying.
To throw you off.
Yeah.
Because then he could easily go, let me put a random team just to trick Paul because it doesn't belong here.
Yeah. Well, let's go.
That's BYU.
Yeah.
Which is very close to Nevada, so we'll take it.
25 point. Okay, trailing 49-24, 6:12 left in the first half. The Cougars roared back to beat Iona 78-72 in the first four. The 25-point rally officially shattered the previous March Madness record of 22 set by Duke in 2001, later matched by Nevada in 2018. So they were all a part of that mix.
So Andrew trying to truly, he is in the mind games because he's like, I'll throw Nevada on there. It's just a different time when Nevada did that. So there's the fake out, I guess.
You put all of that King Jiu-Jitsu mentality, darkness into this one.
You paint him to be something he's not at all.
You don't know what he does at night.
It's
weird. I think he goes into like
I think he makes graphics and gets ready for the show. But I vaguely remember this.
I don't.
When BYU popped up, I kind of remember some sliver of this back in the day, but it wasn't top of mind, obviously.
I think Danny Ainge weaved. No, that was in the 80s or whenever. Okay, the polls now.
Since it's Friday the 13th, your all-time favorite slasher film, Halloween, absolutely slays.
It hatcheted everybody. It's got to be the Chainsaw Massacre, doesn't it?
You know, I do think that the first.
Why?
Yeah. Why?
Oh God! Well, that's the one. I don't think I ever watched the other ones. Oh. I'm not a scary movie guy, so I went with the one I watched, which was the Chainsaw Massacre, which I saw the other day late at night, and I watched 5 minutes and then said why.
I would just say that as much as I enjoyed the original Halloween movie, it was super scary and terrifying. I have never been as scared as when I saw the first Nightmare on Elm Street, because Freddy Krueger is absolutely terrifying, and especially that one where it made you afraid. It made you afraid to fall asleep. That was the premise of it. Well, that's what the premise of it is like Freddy kills you in your dreams.
Yeah.
So that everybody's trying to stay awake because that's where Freddy gets them. You know, yes, Michael Myers, probably the greatest athlete in all of film because nothing could stop the guy. But I could take a nap in that movie and only worry about it a little.
I mean, I think everybody watched scary movies as a kid and had a little bit of trouble sleeping. I don't think that's that odd at all, especially Freddy Krueger and, the whole premise of the movie. But I can't really answer this. The only movie I've seen all the way through is Scream.
Yeah.
And I haven't watched the other ones all the way through. I was never a scary movie guy growing up, partly because they scared me when I was younger, but also partly because they weren't just a genre that really I was all that interested in. I was more into various other genres.
There are two kinds of scary movies. Unbelievably good ones, and then absolute crap.
And there's like slasher junk, but there's a lot of people that love the slasher, like junky type of movies that are like almost like B-movie horror films. I listen to a couple podcasts, and they love horror movies, and I'm fascinated listening to them talk about them, but I don't have any interest myself in watching them.
Reddit. I asked Reddit. The Exorcist was ranked first.
Oh, yeah. That's
Reddit's not the place to ask, but that's an opinion that's
Hereditary was second. The Conjuring third, The Shining with Nicholson fourth, and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre at 5.
I'm not totally against Reddit. Reddit's just a place where you go where people speak as though they're a Hollywood executive and they act like they know every in and out of the movie industry, and you're like, that dude's he's me actually, like acting like Reddit's just very confident people talking confidently about things they actually aren't.
How about Carrie?
Knowledgeable about.
Yeah, Carrie the movie.
Scream is more of a comedy to me than it is it's a slasher comedy. So for all of it, and I really did like the first couple of Scream movies quite a bit. Of course, I was in high school and early college when they came out, so it was right in my wheelhouse. I will say the scariest movie of all time to me is The Birds by Alfred Hitchcock.
Yeah, you're afraid of it.
But Psycho, also another Alfred Hitchcock movie, is absolutely bone-chilling.
I didn't think about the 13th. I really didn't. But
do we have one more? I think we have one more.
Yeah, we have one more poll. Okay. Was the Big 12's LED glass floor a cool innovation or a total disaster?
59% say total gimmick.
Yeah,
failure.
I thought it would be higher than that.
Higher than that. And I thought cool idea, but bad timing. I think that's where it is. I don't think you can, I don't think it was a total gimmick. I mean, there was a gimmick, but and a total failure, no. But it didn't end the way that they wanted it to.
I mean, if he had some different options, then you could just say, and I'm not poo-pooing the options, but I don't think it tells the full tale necessarily, because I do feel like it was a cool idea, bad timing. But are they playing on that court tonight?
No, they're not.
So I got to say it was a gimmick fail, and it was definitely a gimmick. I mean, it was definitely a gimmick, but it was ultimately a failure because they're not even finishing the tournament.
For the last 2 weeks, it's been a failure. Doesn't mean it wasn't like something that we won't see soon, but maybe not all the right information you needed to make sure that it wouldn't be complete, like it wouldn't finish its time which was starting tonight in Kansas City.
I think it's a little bit of all that. Cool idea, bad timing, but ultimately it was a total gimmick and a failure, and I lean more towards the latter. And I do think there is still a very bright future for that type of technology. I would not be surprised if 5 or 10 years they've made changes and people are playing on those courts and there's no issues whatsoever.
Yeah.
I just don't think it's ready yet.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things about the migraine headaches is at the mid-court logo was lit up, seemed like brighter than everything else, and so a player it literally would shoot up into their eyes, and that created some of the problem too.
I think it's also like you're sitting on the bench, and they go to a break, and they flash. It's all these flashing lights, and you're like, "Jeez."
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things people could point out about it, whether it's the flashing or whatever, not being able to see the proper lines on the court at all times. I think the biggest disappointment outside of just it not working and them having to change is I understand that, style-wise, not to think that I'm Mr. Style in any way, shape, or form, don't get me wrong, but I do feel like the darker, edgier gray on black on other shade of gray, that was a couple years ago. I feel like that wasn't the best look for this type of a court. You have all these bells and whistles and you're going gray, black, gray.
Yeah.
Let's lighten this baby up a little bit.
But look at the color scheme tonight when they go to wood. It's pretty much the same type scheme. It reminds me of a rec center or the YMCA.
It reminds me of the Brooklyn Nets, who he used to be a part of running when they made their whole transition, and they went we're black and white and gray, and that's what it reminds me of.
Two great games coming up tonight, semifinals in Kansas City. One final, the debate I asked Bruce Feldman, would Josh Heupel or Clark Lee? He said, who won the basketball game today? Vanderbilt beat Tennessee 75-68. There's the tiebreaker. General Ursus, you lose. You lose.
No, you don't, General Ursus. I got your back. Go Vols.
Mark Byington doing a great job at Vandy, by the way.
No, yes, he's done a really good job. All right, for Craig Smoak and Paul Catalina, for Rez, who's done a great job this first week, and also Logan Begesti, we've been able to see him, Andrew Valet, Garrett Roston, our sponsors, and you. Thank you for giving us your time. We do appreciate it. This is 365 Sports. Have a great weekend. I'm David Smoak.